over at a police station south of Johannesburg this morning to face fresh charges involving their acquisition of 95 locomotives. In 2022, they were arrested on similar charges involving the procurement of 1,062 locomotives. Meanwhile, the Umkhonto weSizwe Party says 2 of its MPs will not be removed from Parliament after handing themselves over to police today. Brian Molefe and Siyabonga Gama, who are former Transnet executives, have been granted bail of 50,000 rand each by the Palm Beach Magistrates Court in Ekurhuleni following tender corruption charges. MKP National spokesperson Hlamule Ndlela says the party will act accordingly after the findings of the court.
These charges reek of nothing else but a political agenda. So we're not going to now all of a sudden purge our people and our members on the basis of, cases, or should we say, charges that are brought to them on the basis of, something that has transpired when there was still a Transnet and so on and so forth. So we said we respect the rule of law. Let's allow that process to unfold and we take it from there.
The case against 39-year-old accused of the murder of 12-year-old Litalianda Ntini from Motherwell in Gqeberha has been postponed to the 7th of next month for formal bail application. The accused made a brief appearance at the Motherwell Magistrates Court. Community members were picketing outside the court in support of the family of the deceased and demanding justice. Litalianda's burnt body was discovered in the bushes near Motherwell after she was reported missing 3 days earlier. Linodia Peterson from Moja's Kids Foundation says it's heartbreaking that Litalianda had to die this way, especially after participating in a GBV march on June 16th.
We came here to the court to say that we know that justice can be deaf, but they shouldn't be silent anymore. We're tired. We say enough is enough. We are tired of that hashtag this, hashtag that. We are saying now we need action. And the action needs to be life sentence. And we need to bring in the death sentence. That is how we feel as children.
eThekwini Mayor Cyril Kaba has welcomed the announcement by Kaizer Chiefs Football Club that the Toyota Club will be played in Durban on the 26th of next month. The soccer showpiece between Chiefs and Ghanaian club Asante Kotoko Sporting Club will be held at the iconic Moses Mabhida Stadium, which is known for hosting major entertainment and sporting events. The game will be preceded by a music concert featuring renowned local artists as well as curtain raiser match between Kaizer Chiefs legends and Zulu Kingdom legends. eThekwini Mayoral spokesperson Mluleki Mtungwa.
Tickets are available on sale, and the mayor has described this announcement as another vote of confidence in the city's ability to host major sporting events. It also demonstrates that we continue to be the premier destination for events, conferences, and entertainment. We want to assure both teams and supporters who will be attending the event that we are ready to host them and will put all measures in place to ensure that we deliver a successful event.
And finally, civil society groups in Togo say at least 7 people have been killed and dozens have been arrested in a series of anti-government protests. A coalition of 23 Togolese civil rights groups known as the National Platform for Civic Space and Development Effectiveness says bodies have been recovered from rivers in the capital Lome. It accuses the security forces and militias of committing abuses. David Dorsey is a spokesperson for the coalition.
Elements of the security forces, who are supposed to protect the public and maintain order, acted in collusion with thugs, lawless, violent men at the service of the regime, and unleashed brutal, deadly repression instead of acting like professionals charged with public safety.
The top story this hour, another body in the Mthatha floods has been recovered by search and rescue teams in the Eastern Cape. The death toll is now at 102. Headlines at 3:30 for SAFM News on the National Pulse. I'm Kolofelo Defo.
In your sports this hour, Proteas are 336 for 7 in their second innings and lead Zimbabwe by 503 runs at tea. 5 days to go until the Women's Africa Cup of Nations and Wimbledon showdown officially underway. More details at 3:30.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer,
Think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Mr. Govender, congrats on the retirement. You just sold your car to WeBuy Cars. Tell us about it.
Yes, it just gathered dust in the garage, so I exchanged it for cold hard cash. Now my wife and I can enjoy a stress-free retirement.
Retiring the car as you retire. Nice. So why WeBuy Cars?
It was so quick. They came over to our house to do the evaluation, and we sold it the same day. Tops, man.
Okay, so now you got even more time on your hands, eh?
Exactly.
WeBuy Cars. Geared for your next chapter. Geared for you.
CFI, a global leader in online trading, is now in South Africa. Access 15,000 plus instruments, currencies, stocks, metals, crypto CFDs, indices, futures, and more on world-class platforms. Enjoy zero pip spreads, no commission fees, and 24/7 support for confident trading. Visit cfi.trade for a secure, transparent trading experience. Don't miss the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda, Tuesdays at 16:45, proudly sponsored by CFI. CFI Financial, an authorized financial services provider. T's and C's apply.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Naturally, on a Monday afternoon after a busy weekend, where once again the DA's responses to what the ANC did or did not do dominated the headlines. It means it's something we cannot ignore. We'll chat to the DA's spokesperson imminently so, and of course I'll get your thoughts on where the DA-ANC relationship in particular is headed. But I want to start with this, right? And I just think it's an interesting thought, okay? You know, what about you and I committing to one bright idea daily? Just one idea, a bright idea every single day. That would mean 365 bright ideas in a year. It's monumental. Now, let's assume you then take away the 200 ideas from the 360 because they're already taken by somebody else, so you can't do that. Maybe you got 165 left. So let's say out of the 165 left, you've got 100 are not practical. So you only got like 50, 60 to go. And of the 65 or so left, maybe 60 you were interested before, but practically it doesn't fire your enthusiasm. So maybe you've only got 5 and you say, that's only 5. You see, from 365 bright ideas, I've only got 5. But think about it. If you did that and you only have 5 ideas to implement in 1 year, that's 5 ideas more than what you have right now. So I'll tell you what, I'm committing myself to one bright idea every single day, and I'd love it if you join me on that journey. Well, that's my point. Let's move on to bigger issues. My name is Ashraf Garda. Welcome to the show. As always, this is the National Pulse, and I certainly can feel you, as I'm sure you can feel where we are headed, right? Connect, you know the numbers. You're a regular, 086 000 2032. And then WhatsApp text messages, or you can text or voice note, 30 seconds max if you do that, 0614 104 107. And do not forget, you can tweet right away using the hashtag The National Pulse. Tell me where you're listening, where you are in the country, and if you want to send a picture where you're at work, that's great too. To do that, just tag SFM Radio and myself. Okay, let's get to the big issue. So we know a lot happened. We know we had the DA's deputy minister effectively sacked a few days ago. There was a 48-hour deadline. I mean, nobody expected the president to adhere to that deadline, from the DA suggesting that, in fact, all those being fingered for corruption must be relieved of their duties. It was never going to happen. Having said that, the DA then coming forward at their presser, making it very clear that they will step away, not from the GNU, but certainly that much talked about conversation that we've been having about getting people together in some form of a national dialogue. But where are we now? So 48 hours after the 48-hour deadline had passed, and that presser. With me is Karabo Gaugao, the DA national spokesperson. Karabo, as always, good to connect with you on the National Pulse.
It's so much, Ashraf. Good afternoon to yourself and good afternoon to your SAFM listeners.
Thank you. I mean, I get a sense that, the world of politics moves at such a breathtaking pace. I mean, 4 or 5 days ago, we were nowhere near considering a conversation about the national dialogue. Then came the presser, then came the DA's comments. So 48 hours after Saturday, where's the DA now, in particular with the ANC? Because I say that because ultimately, this entire relationship within the GNU is ultimately underpinned by the DA and the ANC.
So Ashraf was still at the same place that you left us at the presser. There's absolutely no way that the ANC thinks the country can have a dialogue about the country's discourse and what the next direction for the party is when the ANC is unable to hold a dialogue with its own coalition partners within the GNU. The basis of that dialogue should be at least a framework or a draft based on government's understanding and vision that is a collective vision moving forward to then have a conversation with the rest of the Republic. The ANC cannot go to any public platform and present a national dialogue, a briefing document at the very least or a draft that is still devoid of what the sufficient consensus of the GNU coalition says. So that is point number one. So as far as that is concerned, we're withdrawing from it because it means that there's nothing that you can't. If you don't know how to consult at home, you certainly don't know how to consult in the streets. So that is point number one. Point number two, it is very clear to see here that President Ramaphosa's interest is to shield corruption instead of getting rid of it as he purports to be the case publicly. And that is why the Democratic Alliance has made it clear that we will not be voting for the budgets of ministers that are corrupt. Nobuhle Nkabane has no place in cabinet. Thembisa Melane has no place in cabinet. So does David Mahlobo. The Deputy President Mashatile has no place in cabinet, and neither does Khumbudzo Ntshavheni. And these people cannot be trusted with the country's money, taxpayers' money that is supposed to be used in the best interest of the people. Nobuhle Nkabane does not know how to manage CETA board appointments, and which means she does not know how to take care of 19 billion rands worth of taxpayers' money that is supposed to make sure that CETAs are run effectively. Neither does she know how to turn around in this fuss in itself and make sure that young people are able to get the best quality education and access thereof and funding as far as from the state is concerned. So you can't trust her with the entire budget of basic education.
Mm-hmm.
You could not trust Melanie with a VBS opportunity which she found her hand in the cookie jar. How else do you then expect South Africans and the DA to have confidence for her to manage money for human settlements, which is one of the largest budgets that is given to the country to give people housing?
No, I mean, I hear what you're saying, and it's certainly not for me to defend or to pronounce on the people you've just mentioned. Let the courts decide that whenever, right? But I think this is an important point. I mean, the issues you've raised, some of them are not from ministers that maybe where there's been fingers pointed about them in the last couple of weeks. They've been issues that have been a long time coming. Why then has the ANC been in partnership, or rather the DA? Why then has the DA gone into partnership with the ANC knowing that was the case for the last decade or so, if not at least 5 years?
Because, Ashraf, it's very easy to deal with corruption and tackle it head on from within the coalition than to do it outside of the opposition benches, on the opposition benches outside of government. You would know that it is more uncomfortable to have Andrew Whitfield as the Deputy Minister of Trade and Industry opposing appointments of the DTI, opposing the lottery license, opposing the Transformation Fund than it is to have him opposing that on the opposition benches. That is far more uncomfortable. It makes life less more palatable for the ANC. And that's why the president is unable then to stomach his presence. And that's why it is more difficult to, when you have a conversation about Nobuhle Nkabane, have the most prominent voice coming from within your own government. And it is also most uncomfortable to have a conversation about Thembisa Melane with the most prominent voice coming from outside, inside your government. That is what is uncomfortable. And the ANC never imagined that when the DA came into the GNU, that they would still have their backbones in check and their identities uncompromised as far as what they represent. One thing that the Democratic Alliance has been known for years, it is our stance on anti-corruption. It is our stance on making sure that we have an efficient government that works for the people, making sure that the people's money is used for the people in their best interest.
Now, I mean, part of that, and I hear what you're saying, the ANC Secretary General, lots of people saying different things. I mean, he's been saying something like, because, the DA did say that we've considered a vote of no confidence against the president. And Fikile Mbalula said, if if they propose, they, as in the DA, proposes a motion of no confidence in the president, then they are out of the GNU. I mean, that's the level of stakes we're talking about here.
Yeah, and we're fully aware of those stakes. But the biggest stakes are the Republic of South Africa and its people, not politicians and their egos. That is the bottom line. At least one of us in the GNU, as far as the Democratic Alliance is concerned, knows what they're doing in government and know for who they are in government for. So if President Ramaphosa and the ANC want to fire the DA for being anti-corruption, for standing with the people, and it makes them uncomfortable, then they must be able to go back to the people and the Republic and explain, why do you go out and campaign and say you are on a renewal strategy when all these years you've been corrupt and you're saying you want to fix your ways and you've learned your lessons, and then the first opportunity you have in government with a partner that pushes you towards what you were preaching, you want to get rid of them. That doesn't make sense. That means they are hypocrites. That means they are liars.
Now, I followed a tweet with John Steenhuisen and Herman Mashaba with great interest. John Steenhuisen, your leader, said, and I quote from the tweet, "As long as the ANC members of the executive implicated in corruption, misleading of parliament, and other acts of malfeasance remain around the cabinet table, the DA will not support their department budgets in parliament." Now, you know, that's something that is said at the presser anyway, right? Herman Mashaba's response is so interesting. He said, "John, when I was the mayor of the city of Joburg, I fired 3 DA MACO members for corruption, but the party kept them as councillors. South Africa is not going to succeed in fighting corruption for as long as we apply double standards. Corruption is
no
corruption."
Such thing. The whole country knows, Ashraf. You can't trust anything Herman Mashaba says. One day, he's a flip-flopper of plastic notes. If there's one politician in this country who's renowned for being a flip-flopper, who's unable to stay true to any public comment without changing it the next second, it is Herman Mashaba. There's absolutely no proof of the things that he's talking about.
So you're saying for the record he's talking nonsense?
100%. What we do know that is not nonsense, however, is the fact that Nobuhle Nkabane has not only lied to Parliament, she has lied to the Republic of South Africa. She has sought to manipulate not only the appointment process of Speaker Board chairpersons, but also the cover-up process thereof on the composition. If a panel exists, when Ashraf, that you say helped you appoint people, then by 100% no charge, you know who the chairperson is, particularly when you appointed that panel. But if you go in the public and you lie about who the chairperson is and expect the chairperson to keep quiet and then get caught with your tail between your legs after the chairperson says, "Oh no, don't go lie about me" in public, it again begs the question on whether that panel itself exists. That is one.
Interesting, but with great interest you'll be aware of this. The Students' Union Congress, SASCO, they've now called for the immediate sacking of the Higher Education Minister, Nobuhle Nkabane. So that's just by the way, and we'll chat about that in the next hour or so anyway. But let's end with this, right? For whatever reasons, I mean, you see as yourself holding the moral high ground. I mean, Herman Mashaba believes he does. The ANC believes they do, right or wrong. But there's clear attrition between 2 senior partners that make up the GNU, right? I mean, where are we headed with this? And understand what's in the party interest and what's in the national interest. But do you agree that this attrition, if it continues, well, it could well destroy whatever even the DA may have tried to do as part of the GNU and whatever the ANC may be trying to do as part of the GNU and all the other parties that make up the numbers there?
Ashraf, the bottom line is you have 2 political parties who make or break the government who have different interests. The Democratic Alliance has the interest of the Republic, and they've shown it over and over again. The ANC thought we were being difficult when we told them don't tax South Africans because South Africans don't have money. And they were arrogant enough to say, no, South Africans in their poverty will go find the money that you're saying they do not have. We fought hard because we knew it was the right thing to do. They hated it. They were upset. But we continued to do it because we know whose interests we serve in government. We never said we serve the interests of ANC fat cats and their loyalty cards. We said we want to rescue South Africa from the clutches of corruption and a lack of consideration of the people that has been the consistent brand of the ANC. And that is the commitment that we have.
Okay.
The second time around now, we're still uncompromising in fighting corruption. They hate that there's somebody within government that is fighting corruption because fighting corruption is fighting their very core.
Okay, here's a quick question. We've got 30 seconds to answer this one, right? So I know that the DA has been saying that Whitfield has been asking questions that's made people in government uncomfortable. I hear that, right? On the other hand, I mean, you can see now with hindsight that he was rather naive to actually go on that trip without the actual permission because he's provided the ammunition for himself to be fired. Yes, no?
we can have that debate. Surely there are different sides of the debate that he could have not gone. The bottom line is the sin does not meet the punishment, and you and I can both agree. Mapisa Ngakula and the previous administration flew a whole government airplane with ANC loyalists in it. To go
all
to
right, I'm not discussing others. I'm talking about him.
No. I'm giving you a comparison of why I'm justifying the point I'm making to you about the punishment versus the
Let's
sin.
leave it at that. Thank you so much for your time. Much appreciated. Karabo Gaugao, the DA national spokesperson on the National Pulse.
It was fast, easy, and he gave me the best quote. My savings is 644 Rand. Come join our insurance and save some money.
Nice one, Lebo. Saving 644 Rand a month on your 2019 Mazda CX-3 would also make you so happy you might drop a beat. Outsurance clients know what it feels like to be on the winning side. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. Switch and save today. Outsurance is always looking for ways to save you money. They are also committed to settling valid claims fairly and quickly. No hassles.
You know your claim is going to be taken care of and you've got support along the journey.
SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. With Outsurance, you always get something out. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
Honey, what are you doing?
I'm stretching for tonight.
I thought you're not dancing at bachelorette parties anymore.
Baby, we need the money to put Johnny through matric mos.
And what's the police uniform for?
The clients feel safer when I wear it.
No, man, just sell your bakkie to We Buy Cars. They give the best prices and they pay you within minutes.
Okay, but can I just go and dance one more time, please? You know how much I love it.
No, the buyer's already on his way here.
Wow, okay.
Strapped for cash? Just sell your vehicle to We Buy Cars. The easiest way to sell your car by far.
Keeping your family healthy this winter can feel like a daunting task. Try the Lung Shield range. It includes capsules to support healthy lungs and immunity, a syrup for kids that supports the immune system and promotes lung health, and an effervescent with 13 essential ingredients to optimize immune function. Put your family's health first this winter with the Lung Shield range. Available without a prescription at leading pharmacies. Lung Shield, prescribed by doctors, recommended by pharmacists.
The Northwest Provincial Legislature Portfolio Committee on Premier and Finance, chaired by Honorable Nathan Oliphant, will be conducting public hearings on the Northwest Division of Revenue Bill and Northwest Appropriation Bill on 3 July 2025 at Khopane Tribal Hall, Khopane, in Nakamudiri Molema District, Matlosana Auditorium Hall in Dr. Kenneth Kaunda District, Ipelege Multipurpose Hall, Schweizer-Reneke in Dr. Ruth Somuzi-Mompati District, and Safer Scale Community Hall, Safer Scale in Bujanala District. All hearings start at 10.
Ashraf Garda is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAFM Radio.
And streaming live, we absolutely are. But by the way, you can connect with us, and I'm sure you have lots of views, strong views around the conversation I had with Karabo Gaugao, the DA national spokesperson. You can WhatsApp right away. You can tweet right away. I'll take your calls pretty shortly. Let's get into another big issue. We touched on this a few days ago, just before the weekend, this peace agreement being signed between Rwanda and the DRC, right? Now, David van Wyk, the lead researcher at the Benchmarks Foundation, has a position and suggests that this coming together of this peace treaty, bringing the countries together, in fact, is not a peace but a rebranding of exploitation. And here's the key: where the victim is silenced and the oppressor walks free with the spoils. What exactly does he mean by all of that? David, appreciate your time here on the National Pulse.
Thank you very much for having me, Ashraf.
Thank you. Right, best to explain what you mean.
Well, I think that, first of all, you had the M23 rebels, which is really just a terrorist group that was funded by big tech companies and, of course, Rwanda itself, latest uniforms, latest guns and everything else, terrorizing the northeast of the Congo into submission, basically, to the point where even the UN peacekeepers had to withdraw from the area. And then stepping in to say, no, okay, let's have a peace agreement, United States, of course, which is like a mafia operation. You go into a shop, you beat up the shopkeeper and say, we'll offer you protection in future. That's exactly what happened in the Congo. And the reason for that is that the Congo has coltan, and coltan is absolutely critically important for computers, cell phones, AI, all the latest toys and things that we are thinking about, as well as weapons, of course. And then, of course, in the south, you've got cobalt and copper and so on. And the Congo has really been cursed by the fact that it's so rich. It's probably the richest country in the world if you look on paper at its mineral value and you translate that into dollars and cents. But, of course, the country itself doesn't benefit from it at all. Now, coltan is mined very easily. It's a bucket and spade type of operation. The government gives huge concessions to mining companies. They go in and they mobilize the local population as artisanal miners. They load these things in bags, and then trucks come by and load them up and move off with the stuff. It's not like gold mining in South Africa with ultra deep level mines and that sort of thing. So it's very difficult to control. It's very destructive of the environment.
Okay.
And basically, the United States, China, and Russia are competing. There's a new scramble for Africa going on because minerals globally is actually becoming depleted, the more depleted they become, the more conflict we will have.
Let's go back to the deal that's been struck. I mean, I think the minerals, we all know about how well endowed they are with their minerals. That's the DRC, right? You spoke about it as this mafia operation. So that we are clear about this. So who's the mafia in this deal? Who's put this deal together, and who stands to benefit the most?
Okay. We are living in a neoliberal era where we've got people who have been convicted of crime and so on being presidents and ministers all over the place. And in this case, of course, it's Donald Trump. And he made no bones about it 3-4 months ago that he wants the Congo's minerals, and he wants to get access to those minerals. Then you had the M23 ratchet up the violence to the point where the South African Defence Force had to leave the area. The South African Defence Force were there for the United Nations. And the Trump administration has been undermining the United Nations all over the place and other international institutions, that define international law, international trade, and the global world that we are living in. And so the United Nations basically is non-existent in the Congo now. There's no peacekeeping forces. And people are being driven off their land. They are being driven out of agriculture. The balance between mining and agriculture is changing so significantly. Whereas in a normal situation, you would have 20% of your people involved in mining and the other 80% in other ancillary activities and agriculture. In the Congo, it's the reverse. 80% of the people are now picking up bags with coal, from bank managers to professors and so on.
All right, so let's wrap up quickly by saying, if we're saying Trump is in this case the chief protagonist in terms of bringing this deal together and maybe the chief beneficiary, I mean, then this is consistent with what many commentators are saying, that in fact he's completely transactional in just about everything he does. Even if he knocks South Africa, there's a transactional reason behind it. I mean, is this one more of the same? And if that is the case, then how come he still has so much support by so many people in the world leaders, including, South Africa, who may well fawn over him when they get to the White House?
Well, I think the thing is that he uses what is at his disposal like any mafia boss would do. He uses the military. He's got an immense military power at his disposal, at his beck and call. If you don't agree with him, he will simply destabilize you, or he will overthrow you. So I don't think the Congo had much of a choice. The Congo did dance a bit with Russia and with Putin, but I think that Putin and Trump maybe have agreed on the issue of the Congo. You stay out of the Congo, and we won't support Ukraine. So Trump's support for Zelensky is kind of waned. The American support for Zelensky has waned, but the Russian support for the Congolese government has waned, and they've all but disappeared from the Congo.
Lots to consider. Where is this going to end? Let's say with the DRC and Rwanda now. We know where it started with this peace treaty. Where is it going to end very quickly?
Well, the thing that really worries me about the Congo is it's such an unfortunate state. Right from the outset, right from being colonized by the Belgians through to the assassination of its first president, Patrice Lumumba, and so on, it's always been about the minerals. And the people of the Congo are the ones who are least benefiting from those minerals. The Department of Mining in the Congo, in the areas where I've worked, they don't even have computers in their offices. They've got absolutely no control what is going on. The minerals are just being plundered. So Uganda and Rwanda have become incredibly rich from Congolese minerals.
And limited that, they become rich from Congolese minerals. We're talking about 2 other countries and maybe the third one far, far away, thousands of k's away. David van Wyk, appreciate your time, lead researcher at the Benchmarks Foundation. And I welcome you, the audience, wherever you may be around the world, commenting on the conversation we just had about that and the DA and what comes up next, by the way, which is Vatican reporting serious debt problems that they want to rethink about managing debt globally. We'll get to that in a second. Let's get the news headlines now. It's just gone 3:30.
Thank you, Ashraf. Good afternoon. I'm Kulufelo Tefo. DA National Spokesperson Karabo Khakau says should the ANC respond by not supporting the budgets of departments headed by the DA ministers, that will be an act of vengeance. Another body in the Mthatha floods has been recovered by search and rescue teams in the Eastern Cape. The death toll is now at 102. And further afield, Switzerland has become the latest European country to experience record-breaking temperatures this week, with even the peaks of its highest mountains now feeling the effects. I'll have details at 4.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N3 southbound in Germiston has a crash reported at Houtness interchange. All lanes are open. Slow-moving traffic reported in the Crown City West area. The N3 northbound in Bedfordview is slow-moving on the ramp to the N12 east at Giluli's interchange. And Modderfontein Road in Robbie Ridge is where protest actions reported between Teresa Street and Dane Road. The road's been blocked off, so you're encouraged to use alternative routes. In KZN, the N2 southbound is slow-moving towards Spaghetti Junction. In Cape Town, the M5 southbound slow-moving towards Milner Road. Albert Road is slow-moving through Woodstock, and Victoria Road outbound slow-moving through Woodstock. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Kapele.
All right, let's talk sport. And we have our Minister of Sport in when you talk about cricket. And I'm talking about the World Test Champion winning team, the South African Proteas, yeah?
Yeah, very good afternoon to you, Ashraf, and our listeners. Well, the Proteas are in action in that first test against Zimbabwe at Queen's Sports Club. The Proteas are 359 for 9 in their second innings, and they currently lead Zimbabwe by 526 runs, with Vian Mulder being the man of the day, sitting on 147 of 206 to help South Africa to this massive lead. In rugby, Jean Klein has been ruled out of South Africa's 3 tests in July. This is after picking up an injury during the weekend over the Barbarians. The injury is unspecified, and SA Rugby says that Klein will return to his Irish club Munster to undergo the necessary rehabilitation. The Springboks face Italy in Pretoria next Saturday, with the second test in Gqeberha a week later. Then they take on Georgia in Nelspruit on the 19th of July before heading into the Rugby Championship in August. In football, 5 days to go until the Women's Africa Cup of Nations in Morocco. So this week, I'm going to look at 5 key players for Banyana Banyana, as we know that they're there to go and defend their title. Today's spotlight is going to be on South Africa's captain, Refilwe Jane. She's the heartbeat of Banyana Banyana in that midfield section. With over 100 caps for the national team, she has loads of experience from playing at the Olympics and FIFA Women's World Cup, and also was a key part of that Women's Africa Cup of Nations win in Morocco 3 years ago. Fun fact, actually, she was the first South African woman to play in Italy's Serie A, and now her team is Tia's Galaxy. Meanwhile, Banyana's preparations for the defense of the WAFCON title are back on track. This is after the issue of unpaid match bonuses was resolved on Saturday.
We had a discussion with the captain of the team and the HOD, and we were able to then agree, and we sent the necessary commitment. And I think thus far the reports we're getting is that the team is back at training, and they were preparing for a friendly game that they want to play as part of the preparation.
That's SAFA Vice President Linda Zwane. Then South Africa's Football Association President Danny Jordaan has continued to claim that he's a victim of a sustained media campaign. This is after a motion to suspend him failed to materialize at the SAFA Congress in Sandton, Johannesburg. Building up to the highly anticipated Congress, it had been widely reported that Jordaan was going to face a motion of no confidence over his involvement in a fraud and corruption corruption case after the step-aside motion, which was later withdrawn by 4 disgruntled SAFA regions. Jordan did not hold back in what he called a campaign against his name.
What the members recognize that there are 3 publications in the country out of more than 300 which consistently over the last year has beat the same drum and still went to beat it this morning. Nothing happened here. We had a successful Congress. We had dealt with all the reports. We had debates, and SAFA is intact. But if you read those 3 newspapers, you will see a different picture is generated. And we must just ask why? Why?
Well, elsewhere, Manchester City manager Pep Guardiola has admitted that he does not know if next Premier League challenge will be destroyed by the Club World Cup campaign or not. England manager Thomas Tuchel recently said the involvement of City and Chelsea in this year's tournament in the United States would hand the likes of Liverpool and Arsenal a huge advantage in the title race. Even former Liverpool boss Jurgen Klopp has also described the event as the worst idea ever implemented in football because of concerns over player welfare. In athletics, SASCOC President Barry Hendricks has confirmed that an independent auditing firm has been appointed to investigate allegations of irregular credit card spending by Athletics South Africa President James Moloi.
Now, this is not the first time that credit card issues have come up and cropped up. I remember even in cricket at one stage where there was an issue of overuse of credit cards. So this is not something new to sport. What I don't want to happen is that we now say that based on lack of evidence, whether this was indeed a misuse of the credit card or not. So my position is very clear, and what SASCOC is doing now is we've asked one of our independent external auditing companies to look into the matter for us and to advise us. Now, they can advise us on several aspects: misuse, abuse, and also looking at whether Athletics South Africa have the policies in place for current usage of credit cards as well as future use of credit cards. And I want to emphasize this is just one element of good governance. The others are whether you run your meetings regularly, whether you adhere to your constitution, whether you're developing athletes and how well you're doing in international competitions. So this one aspect must be corrected in the future for Athletics South Africa, for them to gain credibility amongst new sponsors and with the public and with government as well.
Then finally, I have to give you my MVP of the weekend, and it has to be Aldrich Potgieter, who became the youngest South African PGA Tour winner. The 20-year-old won the Rocket Classic. Born in Pretoria and then now resides in Mossel Bay. He actually also spent some time in Australia, but he's playing under the South African flag, and he's the 7th youngest PGA Tour winner since 1983.
That's a big deal.
It's a big deal.
It means financially he's set for life. Right?
Yeah.
Besides, I was not a major, but to win even one PGA Tour, you're set for life.
He is.
I watched he went to a tiebreaker because they had like 3 guys in the running for that final round, at the end of the final round. Wow.
Yeah. Big congratulations to him, and looking forward to seeing him doing well.
I understand that.
Yeah, no. I'll tell you what I tipped to win later on. I'll have more on other sports in the next hour.
A stage awaits, not for applause, but for possibility. For over 40 years, Standard Bank has championed the arts. And at the National Arts Festival, we don't just watch talent rise, we help grow it. Through our Standard Bank Young Artist Winners, raw voices find power, unseen stories take the spotlight, and what begins as a dream grows into a legacy. Join us in Makanda for the festival. Standard Bank, proud lead sponsor of B20 South Africa, an authorized FSP and registered credit provider.
Gordon Ramsay is back, and your favorite kitchen disasters are still somehow in business. New season, same confused chefs, terrifying walk-ins, and enough grease to fry your Wi-Fi. Watch as Gordon tries to fix the unfixable with nothing but sheer rage, British sarcasm, and an iron stomach. Kitchen Nightmares Season 8, Wednesdays at 6 p.m. on S3. Come for the food, stay for the emotional damage.
The Northwest Provincial Legislature Portfolio Committee on Premier and Finance, chaired by Honorable Nathan Oliphant, will be conducting public hearings on the Northwest Division of Revenue Bill and Northwest Appropriation Bill on 3 July 2025 at Khopane Tribal Hall, Khopane, in Nakamudiri Molema District, Matlosana Auditorium Hall in Dr. Kenneth Kaunda District, Ipelege Multipurpose Hall, Schweizer-Reneke in Dr. Ruth Somuzi District, and Safer Scale Community Hall, Safer Scale in Bujanala District. All hearings start at 10.
With the ever-changing financial landscape, it can be difficult to make sense of all the moves at times. Join me, Jimmy Moyaha, on the SAFM Market Update with MoneyWeb, Mondays to Thursdays, 6 to 7 p.m, as we break down the key market trends, top financial stories, and smart investment insights, all in one place. It's everything you need to stay financially informed and ahead of the curve.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
I see Pumzile in Tombela tweeting, the heartbeat. I am marking the register in Hammersdale in KZN. Well, there you are. You say, great that you're listening in. And when you do listen, you put your town on the map, indeed, as you've just done. Right, we'll connect to the certainly the issue around the Vatican's take on Africa's debt problems in a moment. But let's get your thoughts on the DA. Temi Nkosi in Durban, go for it. You're first up on the National Pulse for today.
Hey, how's that, Ashraf?
Yeah, good to hear from you. Thank you. Go for it.
Listen, my bro. Initially, I wanted to talk about the DA, and I need to find that H phrase. It confuses me a lot. But I want to jump into the Congo part, bro.
Yeah.
Can I do that?
Yeah, go for it.
Listen, man. Mm-hmm. I work with 3 guys from the Congo very closely.
Mm-hmm.
And when you touch on the topic of Congo, I just realized that those people have never known peace. The guys that I'm working with in their own homeland. I mean, during the times of Leopard, the only glimpse they had probably would have been during the times of Lububa. But subsequently, he was, we all know what happened to him.
But as the commentator was saying, they're paying the price for the fact that they're probably the most mineral wealthy country in the world.
Yes, but if you think about it, bro, the people of Congo have never known peace. Since those times, and even up until today. And what I'd like to say to us South Africans, how do you say to a person who has never known peace, Uti Abahambe? Yeah. They've never known peace in their own homeland. That's why they'll never be in control of their own minerals.
Well, you certainly put it on the agenda, and I think your point is so valid. When they've never known peace at Temi Nkosi, and then you're saying, how do you tell that person, Abahambe? Just think about it. I'm sure somebody or the other, more than one person, will respond on the National Pulse. Thanks for that connection, Temi Nkosi. Let's see if I've got more thoughts, more callers, and there's certainly lots of comment via WhatsApp, which we will take. In fact, let's see if I can get to. Here's a comment on the issues of Rwanda once again. Here's one on WhatsApp. Yeah.
This year in Cape Town. Now the deal signed with Trump, that is actually not exploitation. You see, unfortunately, we are living in a world when something good is happening, we can't appreciate. When something bad is happening, everybody justifies it. When M23 was killing people were justifying it. But now when we're funding peace, unfortunately, people are trying to come with different theology. Maybe they were benefiting from what the war, right?
Well, maybe they're benefiting from the war. Many can talk about people benefiting all the time from what? The war, right? So let's get that. In fact, let's talk about some interesting take on the African continent right after this.
Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
Right, let's talk about this. It's so significant. A Vatican-backed report, right, endorsed by over 30 global experts. Well, they've had some findings. They found that Africa's public debt has increased by 183% since 2010. So you got that public debt 183% up since 2010. It also notes that around 57% of Africa's population reside in countries that spend more on servicing external debt than on education or healthcare. Now, I mean, therein lies the problem, isn't it? So then you are in a black hole in that sense. You're just not going to get out. Charles Abruga is with me, Executive Director at the International Development Economics Associates, which is an acronym for IDEAS. Charles, good to connect with you on the National Pulse.
Yeah, good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. So tell me more. I mean, I've highlighted the point that 57% of the continent's population resides in countries that spends more on external debt than some of the other priorities. I mean, how did we get ourselves into that position?
Well, there are several factors that got us to that position. Some of it is our fault. Some of it is not our fault. The bit that is our fault is the lack of prudence in our political decisions to borrow, sometimes to borrow bad loans and use those loans poorly. By bad loans, I mean loans that are of high interest and they are short-term and they are predominantly in foreign exchange. When our economies require longer duration borrowing because we need to put our money mostly in infrastructure, things that take much longer than the duration of short-term loans to deliver a return from which you can service those loans. Secondly, that we borrow sometimes in foreign exchange when we don't really need foreign exchange for the purpose of which we are borrowing, such as we are borrowing for public expenditure, which is consumption expenditure, or we are borrowing for capital expenditure, which is predominantly in local currency, doesn't need foreign currency.
All right, so I hear that part.
Foreign currency,
okay.
Nevertheless.
I hear that part.
That is our fault.
Okay. I hear that part about, as you said, these negotiations from a position of weakness, and maybe that's been perpetuated for years and years. But interestingly enough, the report has a roadmap to address the escalating debt. So tell me about the roadmap.
Okay, but before I tell you the roadmap, so that I don't sound like I am simply blaming us for the indebtedness, because the roadmap addresses the two sides of the responsibility of developing country governments and the responsibility of international financial system. So the roadmap for the responsibility for developing country government is don't borrow bad loans, period. And when you borrow it, use it properly, period. But most of the drivers for the debt is external to the debtor countries. And so the roadmap includes addressing those. One is there is no international mechanism for addressing debts, for resolving debts fairly, similar to what you have with regards to private debt when a company is facing bankruptcy. We don't have such a system in relation to international finance. That means debtors are constantly and always, at the losing end because they are facing a collection of stronger, more dominant powers who are creditors. So this system is absolutely important for the long-term resolution of the debt.
All right, so maybe just the last thing before we wrap up. Then just the last thing, right? So I hear what you're saying about that. Why do I get a sense, unless something dramatic happens, we could be having the same conversation in 10 years' time? Meaning, and you've got like 30 seconds to answer this. What's the one thing that we can do to make a complete change so that this inequality is then resolved?
Well, how to avoid this is, again, the two sides of the responsibility. And I was trying to explain how to avoid this and how to address it. So one is address it. The second, in terms of avoiding it, is that remember that the developing countries and debtor countries, including African countries, are creating an international financial system they haven't created. And they have very little influence in it. You have to tackle that international financial system.
Well,
you can tackle it in 2 years.
All right, we don't have the time. We don't. Let me put that on pause. I'll get your 2 ways right after this.
Got a Standard Bank business account and self-service banking? You could win up to 5,000 Rand cash every day this week in the Standard Bank self-service quiz. SMS Standard Bank self-service to 45787 for a chance to be selected. Answer 2 easy questions about Standard Bank self-service banking to be a winner. Tune in every day this week on the Midday Link-Up to see if it's you. Standard Bank. It can be. Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
What if you open your night to culture? Try new things and make space for new voices, new stories, and new perspectives. Open up your Saturday night with world-class entertainment, reality TV, and drama from 6:30 to 9:30 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Honey, what are you doing?
I'm stretching for tonight.
I thought you're not dancing at bachelorette parties anymore.
Baby, we need the money to put Johnny through matriek mos.
And what's the police uniform for?
The clients feel safer when I wear it.
No, man, just sell your bakkie to We Buy Cars. They give the best prices and they pay you within minutes.
Okay, but can I just go and dance one more time, please? You know how much I love it.
No, the buyer's already on his way here.
Wow, okay.
Strapped for cash? Just sell your vehicle to We Buy Cars. The easiest way to sell your car by far.
Keeping your family healthy this winter can feel like a daunting task. Try the Lung Shield range. It includes capsules to support healthy lungs and immunity, a syrup for kids that supports the immune system and promotes lung health, and an effervescent with 13 essential ingredients to optimize immune function. Put your family's health first this winter with the Lung Shield range. Available without a prescription at leading pharmacies. Lung Shield, prescribed by doctors, recommended by pharmacists.
Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
All right, let's just conclude with Charles Abruga. Charles, you said you've got 2 ways, and I'm going to give you 30 seconds to answer that. You can go for it.
Okay, so just the other recommendation that we made, including for developing countries to avoid getting into this debt, is that to promote borrowing more from the domestic market and local currency than foreign. 2, there are now many mechanisms for regional cooperation, especially on financial matters, such as all these initiatives for payments, cross-country payment mechanisms which use joint local currencies to reduce the dependency on foreign exchange. The third resolution, to see how to development banking a lot more, pay more attention to development banks.
Much appreciated. Let's leave it at that.
Develop also on the back.
Okay, that's where we can leave it. Charles Brugger, development banks. That's a conversation I'm sure others may bring up as well. Anyway, Charles Brugger, Executive Director of IDEAS, the International Development Economics Associates. Let's get to you. You're on the pulse. Are you United?
Call us on 086 000 2032.
Right, where people naturally want to talk about the DA and where they're going with the ANC and can they do without each other or not. But there's also comment on, I think, what we just spoke about now. And Hassan wants to talk about IMF loans. Big issue, Hassan. Hi.
Hi, Ashraf. I was just saying that, it's obviously one needs more time for proper conversation. Mm-hmm. But these loans were not just given. I heard our colleagues speak about bad loans and stuff like that. Of course, it's not to exonerate our leaders for making bad choices, but a lot of the times the game is rigged against them. So I want to invite, and maybe I should talk to Temba and others, we must get this guy John Perkins, who wrote the Confessions of an Economic Hitman, which basically says how they bribe leaders and give the leader vanity projects like airports, etc., so that they can then have this relationship which actually burdens future generations.
Okay, I'll tell you what, Hassan.
So I just
do just that. I think we need to have that conversation. It's really that important so that we fully understand what's going on. Because for everyone that loves the IMF and the World Bank, we can think about millions of people who say, come on, man, don't even do any business with them. But it's a lot more complicated than that, surely. Hassan, thanks for that call in Auckland Park. Muzi Nkosi in Springfontein, go for it. You want to talk about the GA?
Yes, Ashraf, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I just want to make 2 quick points.
Yeah.
The first one is, in psychology, they say when people communicate, you have to listen to them by switching on 4 filters, because they either communicate by lying, by telling the facts, or by distortion, or by telling an exaggeration. Now, listening to what happened on Saturday, and we put emotions aside. Mm-hmm. The standard procedure is, if you want to travel overseas, you have to inform the president 14 days before. And the DA's guy waited for 10 days and now is making a hullabaloo as if the president has committed such a big sin in not responding in 10 days' time. You understand? Yeah. So they know they are supposed to wait for 14 days, but the 10 days factor, they are now exaggerating it so much that we start to believe that the president was wrong. And when this guy actually knows that he is wrong because for having waited until only 10 days before his trip.
But you see, I'm going to leave it at Muzi Nkosi. I'll tell you what, even the former deputy minister, he actually apologized as well. So they did concede they were wrong. I think what they're talking about now is not whether he was right or wrong about that, whether his crime is equal to the punishment or the punishment is equal to his crime. And then they're bringing up a whole lot of other people who, according to them, allegedly have done so much worse. And why are they still in senior positions within either cabinet or within the ANC? That really is the number of what they're saying. But Yiswa, let's get your thoughts from Parktown North.
Yes, thanks, Ashraf. On the DA issue,
yeah,
the deputy minister actually has acknowledged his own mistakes, because in any other institution, some of us have served internationally and locally, you have to report. You have to report your principal. You have to write a letter to ask for permission and wait for that permission, no matter how long it takes. You have to prepare earlier. So this was a conspiracy game where he went to conspire with the forces outside. And for Karabo Kakao, I think I'm so disappointed for someone like her to come on air and be so disrespectful to everyone except herself and her DA.
Why was she disrespectful? Very quickly, why?
No. Look, people like Thembisa Melane, I'm not condoning any illegal matters here. But look, they very white people that she's defending. They've not accounted for Nokulas Melane's disappearance and abduction up to this day. I'm one of those victims, and it's so painful to hear someone like her who doesn't know where she's coming from. She's the only one. She's perfect with FDA people, and it must stop, because we're listening and we are heard.
All right, but I hear you. But let's move on.
We have scars.
Okay, well, yes, I mean, I hear that, but I mean, you can't hold the DA responsible for all the scars that you have. And I hear what you're saying. I'm not saying it's irrelevant. It is relevant, but can you hold it to the DA personally? They actually arguing about the scars of corruption in the country. Who do we hold accountable for that? Just think about that. Let's get the news. Here's Colofelo. It's 4 o'clock.
Thank you, Ashraf. Top stories this hour. DA targets what it says specific ANC ministers, and Mthatha floods death toll rises. Good afternoon. DA National spokesperson Karabo Kgakgau says should the ANC respond by not supporting the budgets of departments headed by DA ministers, that will be an act of vengeance. The DA over the weekend announced that it will not support budgets headed by ANC ministers who they deem to be compromised. Last week, the DA gave President Cyril Ramaphosa an ultimatum of 48 hours to remove errant ANC ministers. This in the light of the firing of Deputy Trade, Industry and Competition Minister Andrew Whitfield. Kgakgau says the ANC's reaction to the announcement are not in the best interest of South Africans.
The ANC threatening that they will not support DA ministry budgets is simply an act of vengeance and is not principled on the best interest of South Africans at all. What the DA is saying is that we're targeting specific ministries like higher education, like human settlements, simply because the ministers who are responsible for those budgets are compromised and won't know how to use that money effectively. That is the principle as it is. We're not having a whole rejection of ANC ministries.
Meanwhile, the Executive Secretary of the Council for the Advancement of the South African Constitution, Lawson Naidoo, reckons the withdrawal of support by the DA is not an insurmountable problem for the ANC.
The DA has already supported the fiscal framework, enabling the budget, the overall budget, to be passed. The coalition without the DA still has a more than 50% majority, but the ANC may need other parties, such as Action SA, to support these departmental votes to ensure their smooth passage.
The Umkhonto weSizwe Party says the latest charges against two of its members of parliament are a targeted campaign against black professionals. Former Transnet executives Brian Molefe and Siyabonga Gama have been granted 50,000 rand bail each by the Palm Beach Magistrates Court in Ekurhuleni. Molefe, Gama and two other former Transnet executives face charges of fraud, corruption and money laundering. This relates to a 2012 alleged fraudulent multi-million rand locomotives tender. MKP National spokesperson Nhlamulo Ndlela.
These charges reek of nothing else but a political agenda. So we're not going to now all of a sudden purge our people and our members on the basis of, cases, or should we say, charges that are brought to them on the basis of, something that has transpired when there was still a Transnet and so on and so forth. So we said we respect the rule of law. Let's allow that process to unfold and we take it from there.
The attorney of the men who pleaded guilty to the murder of former ANC Youth League Secretary General Sindiso Makaka has asked the Pietermaritzburg High Court to also consider the number of years he has spent in custody as an awaiting trial prisoner. Busiso Ngengwa's lawyer, Andrew Matlamela, was addressing the court during the mitigation of sentence. Makaka was shot in July 2017 at Umzumkulu and died 2 months later in hospital. Ngengwa also admitted to the attempted murder of Jabulile Msiya, Nomsikelelo Mafa and Ngeba Mazongolo. His co-accused Sibonelo Miezwa and Mbulelo Mpofana have pleaded not guilty. In another news, another body in the Mthatha floods has been recovered by search and rescue teams in the Eastern Cape. The death toll is now at 102. This comes after some parts of the province were hit hard by floods, leaving most families displaced. Provincial government spokesperson Kuselo Ranki says 56 flood victims have been buried and search operation continues.
The War Tambo District Municipality remains the hardest hit with 78 fatalities. From the 102 bodies recovered, 96 bodies have been identified and handed over to families, while 6 remain unidentified. Due to the passage of time, DNA tests may be required to positively identify bodies found decomposed, thus implying that it may take longer to identify the deceased.
And finally, further afield, Switzerland has become the latest European country to experience record-breaking temperatures this week, with even the peaks of its highest mountains now feeling the effects. In response to the high temperatures, home care services are working to help the most vulnerable, especially the elderly and single. The BBC's Imogen Foulkes has the details.
This weekend, the 0-degree threshold rose to 5,000 metres, meaning ice and snow below that altitude will start to melt. But 5,000 metres is higher than any Alp in Switzerland. It's the first time the threshold has been crossed as early as June. Since 2022, 0 degrees centigrade at 5,000 metres has been recorded several times. Before that, only once. The high-altitude thaw puts more pressure on Switzerland's shrinking glaciers, which climate scientists say will be gone by the end of the century if global warming continues at its current rate.
The top story this hour, DA national spokesperson Karabo Kgakgau says should the ANC respond by not supporting the budgets of department headed by DA ministers, that will be an act of vengeance. Headlines at 4:30 for SAFM News. I'm Kolofelo Defo.
In your sports this hour, South Africa all out in their second innings and lead Zimbabwe by 536 runs. Mailula bids farewell to Wydad Athletic, and Wimbledon showdown officially underway. More details at 4:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, Modderfontein Road in Rabie Ridge is where protest actions reported. Between Teresa Street and Dane Road, the road's blocked and you're encouraged to use alternative routes. The N1 northbound in Midrand has a crash near New Road. The M1 southbound has a crash at Boysons, and the N3 southbound in Germiston, a crash reported at Geldenhuys Interchange. In Cape Town, the M5 southbound slow moving towards Milner Road, and Albert Road is slow moving through Woodstock. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
Do great solutions start with good conversation? SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. The National Arts Festival is back. South Africa's biggest celebration of the arts is on. From the 26th of June to the 6th of July, Makhanda becomes the stage for South Africa's boldest theatre, dance, music, arts, comedy, and more. Experience the creative energy, markets, exhibitions, and many surprises. It's where the country comes to create and the world takes notice. Browse the program and book now at nationalartsfestival.co.za. Own it, celebrate it, be there. This Youth Month, SAFM celebrates the spirit, power, and potential of young South Africans. Join us as we dive into conversations that matter, from innovation to education and skills for the changing world, empowering youth for meaningful economic participation. Because at SAFM, we're not just talking, we're leading the conversations that move us. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
You know, I think I could write a book, or perhaps do a daily feature on this show, simply called Conversations with My Uber Driver. That's when I use an Uber, maybe twice a week or something like that. I mean, so yesterday I used an Uber, actually went to go play paddle, and this is how it went, okay? The guy's name is Alex. First of all, he listens to SAFM regularly, because as I get into the car, I could see he was tuned into the station, right? So I'll end up saying, oh, you listen to the station? It's like, yes. And what do you like? And he rattles off, just about every name of every host you can remember on the station, from Tulas in the Morning to Kathy, to Sakina, to Bridget, to KG standing in for Bridget, and then to Ashraf Garda. And I'm like, well, actually, check my name. I'm that person. And he doesn't believe it. And it's like, tell me, man. And we start talking and say, but I really like listening to this guy's show. And I said, but I'm him. And he does not he speaks to me in the third person. And this continues for about 10 minutes. And says, one thing I know about him, he always, because I said I'm going to play paddle with my chommies. And said, interesting you say that, because Ashraf likes to use the word chommies as well. And until we got to the very end, and he still didn't believe that he was talking to me, but he was very complimentary of this show, called it the National Pulse, until I had to show him a picture of me in studio. It's like, oh my goodness. Yeah. Has it ever happened to you where you are who you are, but the person that you're with does not believe you are that person? Conversations with an Uber driver. Hashtag. I could certainly do that. That was, Alex, fascinating indeed. Right, let's move on. We can have another take on that conversation regarding the DA. The podcast is up already. Vusan is quick with it, so you can check it out on our website, but also on Twitter. It's been tweeted. But one of the issues that came up in a conversation that we had earlier on with Karabo Khaukha was the name, of course, of the Higher Education Minister, Nobuhle Mkhabane. Now, interestingly enough, it's not just them. SASCO has a position regarding her. With me is Damian Mukansi, the SASCO NEC member. Appreciate your time, Damian. Thanks for connecting to us on the National Pulse.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to yourself, Ashraf, and all your listeners.
Thank you. Now, we certainly know the DA's position regarding the Higher Education Minister. I understand now that your organization, SASCO, is calling for the immediate sacking of the Education Minister. Tell me why.
No, I think, first of all, one must make it known to everyone that we can't always find ourselves in a position where the minister at all times will keep on doing mistakes and she apologizes, because this has been the theme of her administration throughout the year. And I think I'll try to outline some of the challenges that we have seen. First of all, her office continuously sends wrong information towards the public. She came to the University of KwaZulu-Natal to do an oversight visit. After that visit, she releases a statement that she has instructed the university to extend registration, knowing so well that she does not have the powers as universities have institutional autonomy. Second from then, she went to the Walter Sisulu University when a student was shot during a protest, and instead of focusing on the fact that a staff member had a gun in the university, she went and shared to the public that the student was not a student. So this is a consistent theme. And from there, apologizing. And if you were to follow up, the person from a department that released that information, the person from the university that had initially supplied the department information that the student is not a student, nobody has since then been held accountable. And that speaks to leadership. It speaks to an issue of leadership.
Okay. So one is the issue of, you talk about leadership. I think the word is incompetence. I mean, you would say she's incompetent, right?
Yes.
Okay. The other is the lack of transparency. Would your example be that, or is there more? I mean, including the appointments of key members of the CETA we've just been talking about recently.
I mean, I think there's something that everyone in South Africa should learn, and it's the fact that lies have short legs. And we've seen this. First of all, the NSFAS board is not constituted correctly. And we've been raising this, right, with her department to say, the Act says of the 13, 3 of those people must be coming from recommendations from organizations representing students nationally. And as things stand, the NSFAS board is not constituted correctly. And of course, we have seen, as it relates to the CETA, a very important section of the economic growth of this country to provide skills and development for young people in this country. You saw how that was not handled correctly as it relates to the lies that we have seen, where it's possibly alleged that she may have lied about the chairperson of that particular committee.
And what do you think? I mean, what would motivate her? You know, one thing is incompetence. That's one thing, but the other is transparency or the lack of transparency or making poor leadership decisions. What is your understanding of what motivates her?
I think they are probably be jumping into another space, which maybe I may not be competent enough. But what I want to speak to are the things that we are seeing, things that translate or refer to the lack of leadership, the lack of sound leadership, consistently violating procedures. And that's not what we want for this department. It's a very crucial department. The lives of students are at stake, Currently, I think one of the issues that we want to raise for you is that we 6 months, in fact, we're in recess, students are at home. There are students that did not get allowances throughout the whole year. There are students that are unlawfully or incorrectly defunded. There are students who have sent in appeals and the appeals have not been responded to. There are landlords that are still complaining even today that they've been housing students throughout the whole year and they have not been paid. At an economic level, you know what it means for those businesses. You have a business, you've been providing services and you're not getting a return. These are serious issues, and I don't know for what other message South Africans want us to say for us to show them that there's been a lot of dissatisfaction in terms of how she's handling that department.
Well, what does it say? What does it say about the president? Because you know what's happened with the DA and their deputy minister, right? Over and Andrew Whitfield, I'm talking about. But one of the issues they've spoken about as an example of the president effectively being duplicitous in his dealings is the issue of the higher education minister. And as I talk to you, they're calling for the minister to be charged. And that may well happen formally. What do you think? I mean, does this then ultimately reflect poorly on the minister or the president?
Well, ultimately, the president. That's why we've taken it to the office of the president to say he's the one that has a prerogative to remove her. But of course, even if you look at the infringement that was done by the DA, it's an infringement that was not done now. We do know that the president, even if you were to analyze him, there are many that says he's a strategist and how he goes about things. And of course, the fact that maybe he hasn't acted does not mean that maybe he had no intentions to act. But what we are saying now, we want to put it at his doorstep to say the time to act is now. Because the reality is we don't want to open into the second semester under the same minister with this, potentially for the same issues running into the second semester.
What happens if the powers that be do not adhere or listen to your request to have the higher education minister sacked? What's your next option then?
Well, the reality of the matter is that we have already said this. The ANC says that it is an organization that represents the masses of the people. As SASCO, we are the biggest student organization as it relates to masses and membership across universities. That says us as the people, we are not ready. And I think in the press briefing, the president did allude that we are and we will be engaging in a lot of protest in this country on the 1st of August. Just you can imagine the time frame that they have to fix this. I think they have more than enough time. But if 1st of August comes and our matters have still not been resolved, what we will start to do is in the university spaces, we will do our mass mobilization. We will conscientize our students about the challenges that we are facing. And for sure, a student that had no food in the first semester or throughout the whole semester will definitely join in this call for a massive day of reckoning.
Okay, got that. I mean, I don't know when last I heard the phrase rolling mass action, but I can imagine this could be something along that line. Damian Mukansi, the SASCO NEC member, appreciate your time. And there we are. They very clear. SASCO calling for the immediate sacking of the higher education minister, Nobuhle Nkabani. In this case here, they're saying for incompetence and lack of transparency, and they may find a very willing ally in the DA, or maybe vice versa. That's the world we live in. This is indeed the National Pulse.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
EFC is live this Thursday, after months of talk.
And you got nothing, bro. Beat someone relevant, then come show me what you got.
The middleweight division's biggest rivalry comes to a dramatic conclusion.
Massive drama here at the main event of EFC. Never seen anything like it. This crowd.
It's Luke Michael versus Shadrach Nsua for the middleweight title, EFC 125. Live from the World Sports Betting Arena, this Thursday, July 3rd. Watch it on SABC Sport Channel, on DTT Channel 4 from 7 p.m. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
Mr. Govinda, congrats on the retirement. You just sold your car to We Buy Cars. Tell us about it.
Yes, it just gathered dust in the garage, so I exchanged it for cold hard cash. Now my wife and I can enjoy a stress-free retirement.
Retiring the car as you retire. Nice. So why We Buy Cars?
It was so quick. They came over to our house to do the evaluation, and we sold it the same day. Tops, man.
Okay, so now you got even more time on your hands, eh?
Exactly.
We Buy Cars. Geared for your next chapter. Geared for you.
You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Right, comment on SASCO's position. I'm sure you do have strong views on that. Comment on the conversation I had with the DA spokesperson earlier on. And by the way, that conversation is up as a podcast already. You can check it out. We've tweeted it out, we've Facebooked it out, and it's also on safm.co. You can certainly check it. But you can also watch me in studio visually, so you can get the same conversation in, because that's part of on YouTube as well as on the Twitter live video live stream, as well as on Facebook. You can check exactly what we do behind the scenes if you're up for that sort of thing, right? Okay. Also comments on the DRC issue that we just touched on earlier on. Well, what about this, right? We chatted recently about issues regarding the National School Nutrition Program service providers and some concerns about pricing and things, but things have developed as well. So at this point in time, the National School Nutrition Program Service Providers Association they're concerned by reports indicating a significant increase in the prices of zero-rated food items. Now, this, of course, despite these items or these products being exempt from VAT. Let's find out more with Lindani Matiawane, the National Schools Nutrition Program Service Providers Association's chairperson. Lindani, as always, good to connect with you on the National Pulse.
It's always my pleasure.
Thank you. Right, tell us what's happened. I hear the point about zero-rated products being not being charged VAT, but the prices have actually gone up. Tell me more about it.
It's been a crisis lately, the fact that there's been a high hike in terms of food price items. So even the zero-rated items, it's not affordable anymore. So it's a tough situation to be able to buy, source out, and deliver to schools. So we are hoping for an intervention from the government in terms of increasing the price, whether they need to monitor or they renegotiate.
Okay, I think we're just struggling with that line. Let's see if I can put it back to keys and see if we can just reconnect with my guest, because we need to hear every single word that is being said. It's that important. In the meantime, there's comments about SASCO. Clearly, here's one.
Ashraf, I'm listening to these young leaders of SASCO, but one thing I can tell you, all ANC, SASCO people or affiliated members of the ANC, they're all the same. They are cooked in the same pot. You can see these young boys or these young leaders, they are just frustrated because the minister is not involving them in the table. That's the only thing that will come here and makes baseless allegations about NSFAS, for which some of us who are students, we know what the challenge with NSFAS. We know even the CEO of NSFAS has been highlighted. They are trying to work, just that the system is not that, it's a complex system. So it's just a matter of these boys just to be sidelined and let the minister work for now. She's not perfect, but let her work.
Okay, you're saying latter work. So interesting. One is they may be cut from the same cloth, but do they really? I mean, are they the same things in terms of what you said? Let's get back then to the issue regarding the prices of foods at schools with Lindani Matiwane. So we lost you earlier on, and I was saying, yes, I understand there's no VAT increase, but the prices have gone up. Give me an example or examples of these price increases.
We talk of commodities like maize meal that they were used to be very cheap previously, but now prices have hiked up, and it seems to be an issue to be able to buy those goods.
All right, when you say it seems to be an issue, I mean, you need to tell me more.
With us as feeding, the budget, we do not determine the budget allocation. The budget is prescribed by the department. So we need to work on what has been prescribed to us or given to us by the department. And yet, there hasn't been any increase yet. The commodities and prices are increasing day in and day out. So now it's a mission impossible to be able to buy the whole required goods that have allocated.
But perhaps just share with us the value chain. I mean, so how does it work? Ultimate user would be, or beneficiary would be school learners, right, who need to be fed. But in terms of the process, where do you fit in? Where does government fit in? Where does supply fit in?
For now, the government just allocates or give us the allocation price, and they give us the commodities, how many do we have to source out, and we go out to all of those respectable or known outlet. We went and buy, and we try to negotiate good prices to whoever that will give us good prices. But what is happening as it is now, I'm sure by next month when we come back, when schools will be reopening, there will be increase in terms of price. Each and every time whenever the schools have closed, whenever we come back, there is an increase.
So who do you hold accountable for this? So you're saying you expect an increase in price. You don't know that for sure at this point in time, right?
It has happened many times previously. In January, it happened during April holidays. It happened, and we are expecting it to happen as well. The thing is, as you know, with our economy, so each and everyone is trying to make the best of whatever that they'll be able to get. Okay. So right now we seem to be that prey that is available for the suppliers that we buy from. So because we are known, we are there, we won't go anywhere else. We'll come and buy because we need to fulfill our obligations, and they will increase the prices.
All right, just the last thing. I mean, if you had it your way, how would you fix all this?
I think it could be one out of the two ways. It will be the budget increase, but I don't think it will be a permanent solution. But the department needs, or the government, if I may say so, needs to come in and put some laws in terms of this program, because the program, it's a national grant program. Whenever we are outsourcing goods that are mainly for the program, they can't be charged, and they can't be charged as they are being charged right now.
Okay, let's leave it at that, and we'll follow that story after the school holidays. Lindani Matiwane, the National School Nutrition Program Service Providers Association chairperson. Okay, I'm sure if I ask you, come on, you're on the pulse. Talk to me about that. I'm sure you have a view. There's certainly a view on the higher education minister. Let's listen to this.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Hope you're well. You know, this discussion with the Minister of Higher Education, I don't know why you stop short of saying that she has no ethics, she has no morality. The way she conducts her business in that department is as if she is the head honcho and no one else, and you just listen to her and everything. The problem also is that, as you rightly said, the president should be held responsible for the people he appoints. It flows directly to him. Integrity, accountability, respect for others. Yeah. Mark from Cape Town.
Thanks for that, Mark. Well, I mean, I think that's the point, isn't it? Good choices are made in cabinet, poor choices are made in cabinet all throughout the generations. Ultimately, if it is up to the president's discretion, then what does he do about it if the choice is, well, not according to plan A? Here's a quick one before we get to the news headlines. Related in many ways, the ANC, Ashraf Fahai, the ANC has destroyed our once beautiful country. I wish the DA can propose a motion of no confidence on President Ramaphosa and vote him out of power with the backing of other parties. Let the African notorious criminals be kicked out of power and those corruptly imprisoned. From Anonymous in Bushbuck Ridge. I hear what you're saying. At this point in time, listen, I don't have all the insider knowledge. That's not going to happen. 4:30, here's the news headlines.
Thank you, Ashraf. Good afternoon. In the much anticipated ANC National Working Committee meeting has gotten underway at the party's headquarters, Lutulia House in Johannesburg. DA National spokesperson Karabo Khakau says should the ANC respond by not supporting the budgets of departments headed by DA ministers, that will be an act of vengeance. And beyond our borders, the president of the DRC says a newly signed peace deal with Rwanda paves the way for an era of stability and prosperity. Greg Coase has the details at 5.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Khapele.
Okay, to me, naturally eye on South Africa's cricketers in Zimbabwe, right?
Yes, Zimbabwe are actually on 15 for no loss in their second innings. They're trailing South Africa by 522. Vian Mulder's second test century put South Africa in a commanding position on day 3 of the opening test day in Bulawayo. Mulder scored 147 of 206 balls to steer South Africa to go past that 500 lead mark. Now, David Bedingham, Kalfarain, Chef Maharaj and Corbin Bosch also made valuable contribution. Meanwhile, Pakistan named former all-rounder Azhar Mahmood interim coach of the test side, the fourth man to take the post in the last 18 months. The 50-year-old will remain in the position until January. Then in tennis, Wimbledon is officially underway in some selected results. Benjamin Bonzi upset two-time Wimbledon semi-finalist Daniil Medvedev 7-6, 3-6, 7-6 and 6-2 to claim the biggest win of his career and advance to the second round, while Stefanos Tsitsipas retired from his first round match against Valentin Roya, going down 6-3, or he was going down 6-3, 6-2, and he's currently dealing with a back injury. While top seed on the women's side of things, Aryna Sabalenka registered her 43rd win of the year after beating Carson Branston 6-1, 7-5 in round 1. Then in athletics, renowned South African middle distance coach Samuel Sebeng expressed his pride in his athlete Tsepo Chite after he shattered the 11-year national 1500-meter record previously held by Johan Grunya. Chite clocked 3 minutes 31.35 seconds to finish 9th at the Diamond League meeting in Paris, surpassing Grunya's 2013 time of 3 minutes 31.93 set in Italy. And Sebeng says that he wasn't surprised by the performance, adding that they were confident the record would fall if everything went according to plan. In football, Toronto FC forward Cassius Mailula has penned an emotional farewell to Moroccan giants Wydad Athletic. This is after his loan spell at the club came to an end. Mailula joined Wydad on a season-long loan from MLS side Toronto FC, and during his time in Morocco, he featured in 36 matches, including a notable appearance at the FIFA Club World Cup, where he even managed to score a goal. And talking about the FIFA Club World Cup, Bayern Munich coach Vincent Kompany says that the tournament has proven that European football is not as dominant as initially expected. It may still be that a team from the part of the world clinches the title of the major tournament currently underway in the US, but former Manchester City captain says that the gap is closing if the group stage fixtures are anything to go by.
We've been able to see a lot of good teams from other continents, teams that we normally don't analyze, teams that we normally don't pay so much attention to, and then obviously you see how much this game is a global game. So many teams have showed very good levels in games. I think it's been mentioned about the South American teams, but with a bit more luck, some of the African teams would have also gone maybe one more round. And I expect that every 4 years, those continents who are maybe not yet there will make steps, and that, as it looks at the moment with South America and Europe, the levels are, for all the guys who are watching the tournament, it's not as far from each other as people maybe think.
In motorsport, Max Verstappen says that every driver has made a mistake. This is after he was top-toed into retirement by Mercedes' Kimi Antonelli in the Australian Grand Prix. Antonelli misjudged the third corner of the race and smashed into Verstappen's Red Bull, taking both out of the race. Antonelli apologized to Verstappen immediately after the incident, and the Dutchman says no one does these things on purpose and it can happen. And the Italian rookie has been given a 3-place grid penalty for next weekend's British Grand Prix for causing a collision. I'll have more on other sports in the next hour.
Interesting indeed. Listen, by the way, I mean, we discussed this before. The Jurgen Klopp comments is something I raised beforehand, right?
Yeah.
I mean, your thoughts now? Has it been proven right? Some people are saying it's been a tedious tournament, and I think Pep has been making the point that because it should be like a summer tour, but it's become like a serious summer tour, the players are not having a break.
Yeah.
And effectively, they should be going back for pre-season now, next week.
Of course.
So where's their break? It must have an impact. I mean, it's like, listen, you and I are not professional sports people, but can you imagine us being on air every day of the week for like 5 months straight with not a single break?
I was actually thinking this weekend.
That's what it is.
I was actually thinking this weekend that if Sundowns went through to the round of 16, they'd still be playing there. And I asked myself, where do you strike the balance between having game time and just too much playtime? Yeah. Because obviously every single player needs to rest. So the ones that are going to go on until the end of the tournament, how long are they going to have to rest?
But let me sound very socio-political. In terms of the means of production, in this case, are the players.
Yeah.
And don't mess with the players. And there's no way, no matter what sport you play, if you overplay them and you think that rest is not part of recovery and sharpens them up, then you've got to be joking. Money can't be the only issue. And you don't rest players, and you think you want the best players to play at optimum level all the time. It just does not work that way.
True. However, I am enjoying the games.
There is a however.
I am enjoying the games.
Okay, well, there you are. There's always a fan. As long as there's one fan, it's great.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound as a crash reported at Boysons, the N1 southbound in Fourways queuing towards Winnie Mandela Drive, the N12 R24 westbound in Bedfordview queuing on both routes towards Gilulis Interchange, and the N3 southbound in Germiston has a crash reported at Geldenes Interchange. In KZN, the N3 northbound in Ladysmith has a crash reported near Bergville Interchange. On the N3, queuing traffic reported on the link to the N2 South at Spaghetti Junction. The N2 southbound has a crash reported after Spaghetti Junction, and the M7 St. John's Avenue is queuing through central Pinetown. In Cape Town, the N1 inbound has slow-moving traffic reported towards the M5 Koeberg interchange. The M5 southbound is slow-moving towards Racecourse Road, and Viking Way eastbound in Epping slow-moving towards the N7 Jakes Hadwell Drive. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
James, congrats on the babies.
Yeah, thanks. It's a wild ride.
You're a new dad, 2 babies, 0 sleep, and 1 car that apparently couldn't cope.
Yeah, the hatchback was my baby, but it just didn't have enough space for my 2 new babies.
And are you happy with the price when you sold to We Buy Cars?
Very. We've even got some extra cash to splurge on one of those fancy prams that you basically need a license for.
Good luck, James. We Buy Cars. Geared for family, geared for you.
Kathy Motlatlana on SAFM.
Abongile, let me maybe give you a chance to come in as well.
I had been to a mainstream school and I knew what it could offer. It was also a boarding school. The first thing I asked the principal was, are we all going in the same classroom? My mother said, well, why are you asking him? And I said, well, because I'm visually impaired, but I'm not going to be able to learn if I can't see. And what about my classmate who has deafness? How are we all going to be taught in the same classroom when my other classmate has autism and they learn in a certain way versus the child who has a learning impairment? These are the things that I witnessed as a child, and realizing these are the real deprivations that every child should have.
Abongile Kantini is a diversity, equity, inclusion.
If you're ready to talk, I'm here to listen, and nothing is off the agenda.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Let's get to those numbers on the first day of the week with Makwe Masilela, Chief Investment Officer at Makwe Fund Managers. Makwe, you've got news, local and global as always, but let's start with Invicta's annual results.
Yes, Ashraf, the guys, they supply and distribute replacement parts and services, solutions for industrial and auto agri-industries, as well as capital and earth-moving equipment. The guys redeemed all outstanding preference shares, unlocking additional value for ordinary shareholders, repurchased and cancelled 157 million worth of ordinary shares, another benefit for long-term shareholders, revenue up 6%, cash on hand sitting at 800 million rands, profit as headline earnings per share up 14%, dividend per share up 10%. As of June has been one of those volatile but positive months for global markets, and we have seen that people have been expecting Fed rate cuts, hopes that trade agreements could be reached before the 9th of July deadline, that 12-day war between Israel and Iran, and China and Japan's factory outputs contracted in June, grappling with sluggish overseas demand amid relative high U.S. tariffs. And by the way, Canada and U.S. restarted their trade talks, and it seems the European Union will meet their July deadline. And another sentiment booster, also Trump's big beautiful bill with tax cut is going to the next stage, and this roller coaster first half is ending with stocks at records. And for the better parts of today's session, the rand gained as much as 0.7% and traded 0.4% stronger against the dollar after it became apparent that neither the GNU's 2 biggest members wanted to unravel, and our central bank governor reinforced this argument for adopting a lower inflation target. Remember, currently it's 3 to 6%, noting that the current target has the rent and allows prices to go higher. And yes, a possible OPEC plus output increase in August and uncertainty over the global demand outlook weighed on the oil market. We see Brent crude is down 1.8% at $66 a barrel. Yellow metal benefiting from a weaker dollar, but gains limited by trade deal hopes. And we see gold is up 0.3% at 3,283. Platinum is down 0.7%. Global markets are mixed, with the US up, the euro is down, but the JSE is up 0.5% and is been led by our resources. The rand firmed to 0.1% against the rand now, 1777. Against the dollar, 1777 against the dollar, 24.33 against the pound, and 20.84 against the euro.
You have a great evening. It's still a busy day, I think, before the evening actually kicks in. Makwe Masilela, as always, thanks for your time. And remember, we'll have a full 1 hour of the markets coming up from 6 to 7 tonight. Jimmy Muyaha, as always, in the hot seat.
The Morning Brief.
Do you know why you were fired?
Well, I can only speculate. I received a letter on Wednesday, and that letter didn't provide any explanation, but thanked me for my service and reiterated the President's legal prerogative to appoint and obviously disappoint in this case. But, one of the reasons may very well be that I traveled to the United States earlier this year. I did request permission from the President. After 10 days, I had not received a response, and I undertook to go obviously at risk.
Andrew Whitfield, DA Member of Parliament and also former Deputy Minister of Trade and Industry.
Thulasizwe Simelane on The Morning Brief. Find the podcast at safm.co.za. The National Arts Festival is back. South Africa's biggest celebration of the arts is on. From the 26th of June to the 6th of July, Makhanda becomes the stage for South Africa's boldest theatre, dance, music, arts, comedy, and more. Experience the creative energy, markets, exhibitions, and many surprises. It's where the country comes to create and the world takes notice. Browse the program and book now at nationalartsfestival.co.za. Own it, celebrate it, be there. Call us on 086 000 2032.
So I want to repeat what I said earlier on. Come on, I'm doing this and I want to encourage you to do the same thing. Think about it daily. Commit every single day to agreeing or thinking of one great idea, your great idea, and then put that together. And in 365 days, you'll have 365 great ideas. What you do next is another conversation. But hey, it does start with one great idea, which is a lot better than what you'd have right now. So I'm committing to that one great idea every single day in my life. You can do the same thing. Okay. Let's get to your comments. By the way, certainly want to hear from you and want to hear your thoughts on some of the issues we've touched on, but it's also possible that some of the issues we have not touched on at all, and you feel, hey, come on, I want to raise my views on that one there, so go ahead and do so. Let's get some voice notes.
Yeah, my Ashraf, I think that Karabo Khao, Sole Malati, Sivio Bahube, all these people are singing for their supper. Ashraf, I'd do the same. I'd do the same. There's no way they believe on what they're saying. There is no way. They know where we've been as a country. They know where they stand in the DA even. Thanks.
Well, interesting point. You say singing for their supper, but can we then apply the same principle to, say, ANC members and leaders? Because one of the arguments has been, and we can only put this to the ANC mainly because they have been the political party that's governed this country for 3 decades, that there's been so many people where fingers have been pointed against them and they've been allowed to stick around. There's been less criticism against them. So are they also singing for their supper? Meaning ANC leaders in positions who can do something about it and have left things alone. Think about it.
Good afternoon, Mr. Ashraf. This is Mbongo Sundisa. Mr. Ashraf, I think the leaders of Tutula, including that lady, the forward one, those people should be arrested. Imagine like they turn away a Zimbabwean lady with a small child that is sick. They turn them away. This is totally unfair. What if that child died? What if he died and then he was going to be helped in the clinic by the nurses? They should be arrested seriously. This Tutula nonsense, I don't understand it. I'm a South African myself. They must be arrested. Police mustn't love them. They must just give them hot clubs. Thanks.
Okay, there we are. I don't need to add to that. I mean, I think you put your point clearly and emphatically so, but there's further comment on the GA.
Ashraf, good afternoon. Wonderful show always. It's Ali here from Limpopo. I'm just not amazed by the TA, how they want to play double standard. Actually, they knew when they enter into the GNU that there is much of corrupt leaders in the ANC, and they kept quiet because of they wanted to be inside. So now if things are not going their way, they want to come now and want to blackmail the ANC. They knew that the ANC comrades are corrupt there. So then why now? So they just want to play double standard here. Thank you.
Well, I mean, that's the point, and it's something I brought up in my conversation with Karabo Khao. Do listen to that to say, well, they knew exactly what they were signing up for. Why did they? But your point is interesting. They knew, and this is you and I talking, that they knew that power sharing gives them a shop window to try and impress you and I and everybody else listening to say, look at how well these people govern. And who knows, that may just be good enough to convince others to vote for them in the local election and then the next general election. And really, that applies not just to the DA, but to all the other parties that have made up the GNU. It is the ultimate shop window. Take it the way you want. It really is. Further thoughts on Ramaphosa?
Hey, Ashraf and all SAFM listeners. Good afternoon. Well, I think President Ramaphosa is really unfair to his own children, like his own biological children, which is the ANC in this instance, is quite lenient. And when it comes to the external children, is pretty harsh. That's not how to build a progressive family. Well, that's my view, Ashraf, from Stegspruit in the Eastern Cape, near the Lesotho borders.
Okay, well, that's another strong view, as I expect many people would raise. Let's pick up. There's a quick comment on the and please try and keep the comments to a maximum of 30 seconds so we can get more people in, because really we want to do that. Here's one on the DRC.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Check your... Oh, this is Incognito in Durban. The guy who said that the DRC has never had peace, the DRC had chances and chances and chances to reinvent itself with its natural resources. The African Union is nothing but a toothless dog. We are in this continent and we are facing these problems, yet we've got a body, a mother body, that is supposed to lay out almost all the rules that the countries who are signatories to the African Union will have to follow. But no, South Africa was in the DRC, we were fighting their battles, and then we had to leave. What did the president of the DRC do? No, they rather go with the Western forces and the Eastern forces. So then there's problem because of themselves.
Well, and then Trump has signed them up. He certainly gets his work done, Donald Trump, but transactional, as we've often said. Toothless dogs is what you say. You could ask the question about the role of the African Union. Like, seriously, what does the African Union do, right? DA knows ANC is corrupted. Why DA joins with the ANC government? Okay, you've made the point. And here's another one. Why is the ANC... Now, let me get this right. Must not read it incorrectly. What is the travel for the deputy minister? So it was not approved, then it was unauthorized expenditure. I think they were going on personal business, but it was DA personal business, not as a deputy minister. That's the point that was brought up. Okay, this is the National Pulse. You're connected. You're always on the pulse. I'll get more thoughts from you in a moment.
EFC is live this Thursday, after months of talk.
And you got nothing, bro. Beat someone relevant, then come show me what you got.
The middleweight division's biggest rivalry comes to a dramatic conclusion.
Massive drama here at the main event of EFC. Never seen anything like it. This crowd.
It's Luke Michael versus Shadrach and Sua for the middleweight title, EFC 125. Live from the World Sports Betting Arena this Thursday, July 3rd. Watch it on SABC Sport Channel on DTT Channel 4 from 7 p.m. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
James, congrats on the babies.
Yeah, thanks. It's a wild ride.
You're a new dad, 2 babies, 0 sleep, and 1 car that apparently couldn't cope.
Yeah, the hatchback was my baby, but it just didn't have enough space for my 2 new babies.
And are you happy with the price when you sold to We Buy Cars?
Very. We've even got some extra cash to splurge on one of those fancy prams that you basically need a license for.
Good luck, James. We Buy Cars. Geared for family, geared for you.
You're listening to the National Pulse.
Right, let's get further thoughts from you. By the way, just to confirm what I mentioned earlier on, it's important, confirmation that the DA now saying that they will lay criminal charges against Minister Nabuhle Mkhabane, and they're accused of lying to Parliament. So those official criminal charges, that will come from the DA. Here we are in for interesting times, I would think, isn't it? Right, let's do this. There's a few more comments that you made, and I need to hear you, and a lot of it has got to be about the deputy minister.
Good evening, Ashraf, and good evening to the SFM listeners. Ashraf, I just want to ask, man, since when do deputy ministers' posts matter according to the DA? Because before they got into government, they were saying that deputy ministers are useless and deputy ministers are just wasting taxpayers' money. And now, when did they matter? Because they are busy fighting tooth and nail for their deputy minister that has been fired. Shouldn't maybe this be an opportunity for them to push to scrap the whole deputy ministry so they can have the last laugh? I don't know.
Okay, well, yeah. Who can have the last laugh? Let's get on to another issue about last laugh. With me now is Katlego Legori, the SABC News reporter, news economics reporter. And the reason why there was a significant meeting of people at the Palm Ridge Magistrates Court this morning that included Brian Molefe and others. And let's get exactly up to date with what happened on that significant day. Katlego, it's always good to connect with you on the National Pulse.
Very good afternoon to you, Ashraf, and to our listeners at home.
All right, some significant hot shots, and I think hashtag Transnet is the common denominator there, right?
Yeah, most definitely. Today was the Transnet day from early in the morning when we saw that breaking news that some of the executives here have handed themselves over to the police, so it flowed from there.
So tell me more in terms of what was the actual appearance about, and then just run through what happened.
The actual appearance was around, the irregular contracts that were, that played themselves out at Transnet between the year 2011 to 2015. At the heart of what we see happening here would be the procurement of locomotives. This train, it was around that time when Transnet decided that it's going to really be turning around. And that point in time between 2011 and 2014, they moved to take a decision that they're going to expand and modernize their services, and this would see the need then for contracts here and bidders being called here. But we're told that that process did not see the light of day in terms of the public procurement, finance management, and how then we would expect the tenders and the bidding to go open to the public and the likes. So most of this would see the contract then being deemed as irregular here. This is a matter that flows all the way from the State Capture Commission of Inquiry, when we're told that at Transnet there was a lot of graphs that were happening around that time linked to the Gupta family. And so we see the NPA now moving to close in on some of the executives here, and those that were there as part of those four that handed themselves over and were released on bail today would be Transnet executives, the former CFO, Anuj Singh, Brian Molefe, the former CEO, the Siyabonga Gama Huse, and also Kamsang Gianni. They were all released on the 50,000 Rand bail, with this matter, Ashraf, expected to be back in the courts in October.
And I understand with the bail, the initial bail price was set at about 200,000. They all negotiated downwards, and they couldn't afford it, right?
They could. The state was at pains to say that this money they can afford, looking at the monies that we're talking about here, where those irregular contracts are concerned. We're talking about monies that go into billions here. And this is where then the state was confident to say that these former executives of Transnet, they can afford the 200,000 Rand bail. But we see them putting up a fight in court. For instance, most of them, the former CFO are saying that he can't afford the 200,000 Rand. Things have not been well for him where his businesses are concerned. We see members of parliament, Brian Molefe and Siyabonga Gama, they said that at this point in time, they had spent some time without a job. They've just started as being members of parliament, and that they can't afford it. But the onus as well was on them, Ashraf, to prove that they are not a flight risk, and at the same time, they won't jeopardize this case, which is what their lawyers were vehemently arguing here. Also even trying to say that why don't you join these matters, because the Palm Ridge Specialized Commercial Crimes Court is already entertaining a similar matter at Transnet that speaks of these locomotives They wanted these cases to be paired here, but we see the judge saying that they should sit separately. This one would see itself in court again on the 5th of October, and the other one is called the Moodley case, their Transnet, that also involves the very same suspects, would be in court next year in February 2026.
Okay, so you sort of answered that question about what happens next, right? October is another big day. Just the last thing, did anyone of the four, did anybody say something significant either in court or even outside of court that you think is very quotable that you can share?
I think what was quite interesting here would be most of them are saying that really when you look at it, the evidence that would come from the State Capture Commission of Inquiry would still need to be challenged here. And notable would be the NPA this time around going forward to say that they are looking at seeing this case through. Remember, the NPA, Ashraf, have been in the news for the bad reasons, the wrong reasons, in terms of them not being able to see these high-profile cases to finality, including the state capture cases. They've been too slow, criticized on being slow, or where some of these cases are concerned. But speaking to them after this court sitting, they were confident that this time around they won't have an egg on their face and they'll see this case through. Hence, they believe in the work that has been done by the IDEC in this matter.
Okay, let's leave it at. I appreciate your time, Katlego. As always, busy day for you and probably busy months ahead, looking at issues around economics and South Africa, politics, corruption, and all that sort of thing. Thank you for your time. We'll have another take, by the way, on the conversation I had with the DA spokesperson, just to get another perspective of just where we are. Now, we know there's also going to be a formal charge against the Minister of Higher Education as per the DA, the commitment. So all of that and more coming up. You are tuned into the National Pulse, and in doing so, there's no question the price you pay for that or the reward is, well, you're on the pulse and so am I. Let's get the news. It's 5 o'clock.
Thank you, Ashraf. DA delayed charges against Cabinet Minister and praise for the DRC-Rwanda peace agreement. Good day to you. The DA says it will be laying criminal charges against the Minister of Higher Education and Training, Nabuleni Khabane, tomorrow, ahead of her tabling of the department's budget vote in the National Council of Provinces. The party says while President Cyril Ramaphosa continues to take no action against ANC corruption in the executive, it'll use every means to fight it. Over the weekend, it announced it will not support the budget votes of ministers it deems compromised. This after giving Ramaphosa an ultimatum of 48 hours to remove Khabane, as well as the Human Settlements Minister and the Deputy Minister of Water and Sanitation. This in light of the firing of the Deputy Minister of Trade, Industry and Competition, Andrew Whitfield. Following the expiry of the 48 hours, the DA then announced it would withdraw support for the budgets of these ministries, as well as its participation in the National Dialogue in August. Meanwhile, the DA's Karabo Kakao says should the ANC respond by not supporting the budgets of departments headed by DA ministers, that would be an act of vengeance.
The ANC threatening that they will not support DA ministry budgets is simply an act of vengeance and is not principled on the best interests of South Africans at all. What the DA is saying is that we're targeting specific ministries like higher education, like human settlements, simply because the ministers who are responsible for those budgets are compromised and won't know how to use that money effectively. That is the principle as it is. We're not having a wholesale rejection of ANC ministries.
A meeting of the ANC's National Working Committee is underway at the party's headquarters, Luthuli House in Johannesburg. The meeting of the structure responsible for the day-to-day running of the ANC is seized with the recent developments in the GNU. This, of course, follows the DA's threat to table a motion of no confidence against President Ramaphosa. ANC spokesperson Mahlengi Bengu Motsiri.
I can say with certainty that motion will not pass in the House. And if the DA decides to do that, they're essentially saying that they've walked out of the government of national unity. We know that they've been planning, or a particular group within the DA been planning the matter of passing a motion of no confidence. We were expecting that was what was going to be spoken about. But we do want to say that should they take that course of action, the ANC are very ready to make sure that we defend.
The following story contains sensitive details that may upset sensitive listeners, including children. The family of an 87-year-old woman who was hacked to death allegedly by her son is reeling in shock following her killing. He also dismembered her body and then put the remains in a plastic container in their home outside Polokwane in Limpopo. The victim's niece, Ramakone Mutapo, says the man had always abused his mother, but she was reluctant to press charges against her son.
We are still reeling in shock from the gruesome murder of my maternal aunt, particularly the brutal dismemberment of her body and the placement of her remains in basket. We have more questions than answers regarding the circumstances surrounding the crime, whether the perpetrator was under the influence of something. We are calling for the accused to be denied bail and wish for him to spend the rest of his life in prison. We hope that this might bring some solace to our grieving hearts. We are currently at loss for how to proceed with the funeral arrangements.
A Calvinia man's been sentenced to life in prison by the Northern Cape High Court for killing and then burying his wife. Police spokesperson Sergio Kok.
On the 15th of April 2022, the accused beat his wife to death at their home and buried her in a shallow grave behind a school in Calvinia. Police were alerted by a community member, and the husband was found with bloodstained clothes and subsequently was arrested. Charles Matthys was sentenced on the 27th of June 2025 in the Northern Cape High Court in Calvinia as follows. For murder, life imprisonment. Assault common, 1 year imprisonment. Defeating the ends of justice, 6 months imprisonment. Matthys was also declared unfit to possess a firearm.
Finally, the DRC President Felix Tshisekedi says the newly signed peace deal with Rwanda paves the way for an era of stability and prosperity. In a speech, he praised the administration of US President Donald Trump for mediating the agreement, which aims to end decades of conflict in the eastern DRC. The top story, the DA says it'll be laying criminal charges against the Minister of Higher Education and Training tomorrow. That's SAFM News. I'm Greg Close.
In your sports this hour, Zimbabwe 32-1, trailing South Africa by 505 runs. SASCOC appoints auditor to investigate Athletics South Africa, and Wimbledon showdown underway. More details at 5:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N12 westbound in Eldorado Park has delays towards Klipspruit Valley Road exit, and Iskiampahleli Drive in Pretoria has a crash reported near Mabopane Highway. In KZN, Chris Hani Road westbound is queuing at the N2 Highway, and Victoria Embankment outbound queuing towards the M4 Highway exit. In Cape Town, the N1 outbound is slow moving towards the R300 interchange, and Main Road northbound slow moving at Cork Bay. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
Across South Africa, online and on radio. SAFM, let's talk.
Planet Earth, third planet from the sun. A cool place within the solar system where you can pause and take a deep breath without your lungs exploding. Home to an amazing array of wildlife and amazing landscapes that will leave you breathless either through wonder or fear. For humans, it's a place they call home, the only one that they have now. Team Surai follows a dedicated group of individuals dedicated to protecting the planet. Their mission, to encourage viewers to take concrete steps to protect the Earth. Catch Team Surai Thursdays at 6 p.m. S3, open up.
EFC is live this Thursday. After months of talk,
And you got nothing, bro. Beat someone relevant, then come show me what you got.
the middleweight division's biggest rivalry comes to a dramatic conclusion.
Massive drama here at the main event of EFC. Never seen anything like it. This crowd.
It's Luke Michael versus Shadrach Nsua for the middleweight title, EFC 125. Live from the World Sports Betting Arena this Thursday, July 3rd. Watch it on SABC Sport Channel on DTT Channel 4 from 7 p.m. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
The National Arts Festival is back. South Africa's biggest celebration of the arts is on. From the 26th of June to the 6th of July, Makhanda becomes the stage for South Africa's boldest theatre, dance, music, arts, comedy, and more. Experience the creative energy, markets, exhibitions, and many surprises. It's where the country comes to create and the world takes notice. Browse the program and book now at nationalartsfestival.co.za. Own it, celebrate it, be there. This Youth Month, SAFM celebrates the spirit, power and potential of young South Africans. Join us as we dive into conversations that matter, from innovation to education and skills for the changing world. Empowering youth for meaningful economic participation. Because at SAFM, we're not just talking, we're leading the conversations that move us. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Someone asked me the other day, like, what's it like hosting a talk show, a drive time talk show? And I said, news changes by the minute. It is never, ever boring. And not just me, but my production team, Temba, Keys, and Rusani, we have to have our minds on top of things every time. There's no way you can cop out. And I mean, just to that point, we'll talk about the DA's position and now formally wanting to charge the Minister of Higher Education. But also Kenny Kunene, the Patriotic Front's MMC for Transport in the city of Joburg. Well, he is the MMC for Transport, but for now, he is now the acting executive mayor in the city of Joburg. Well, there you are. That's why it's the National Pulse, isn't it? Let's talk about the DA. So earlier on, I had a chat with Karabo Khaukau, and do listen to the entire conversation because it's really interesting in terms of what their thoughts are about things. It's up as a podcast. We've tweeted it out, and it's also available on our website, safm.co.za, but also if you watch us on streaming live, it's on YouTube as well as on Twitter as a live streaming conversation, so you can check it out anywhere. Right. So, but we're going to take it a step further. With me now is Professor Mashupye Maseru Mule, who's the political commentator from the Tshwane University of Technology. Prof. Maseru Mule, appreciate your time. Thanks for connecting on the National Pulse.
Thank you so much, Ashraf.
Thank you. Right, so I'll tell you what we'll do is this. I want to talk to you, but earlier on I had a chat with Karabo Khaukau, of course, right? And amongst the many, many things we spoke about, the one, of course, is there's a sense that, the DA needs the ANC and the ANC needs the DA. And that's an issue we've spoken about at length for the last few months. And this is what she said.
Ashraf, the bottom line is you have two political parties who make or break the government who have different interests. The Democratic Alliance has the interest of the Republic, and they've shown it over and over again. The ANC thought we were being difficult when we told them don't tax South Africans because South Africans don't have money. And they were arrogant enough to say, no, South Africans in their poverty will go find the money that you're saying they do not have. We fought hard because we knew it was the right thing to do. They hated it. They were upset. But we continued to do it because we know whose interests we serve in government. We never said we serve the interests of ANC fat cats and their loyalty cards. We said we want to rescue South Africa from the clutches of corruption and a lack of consideration of the people that has been the consistent brand of the ANC. And that is the commitment that we have.
Okay.
The second time around now, we're still uncompromising in fighting corruption. They hate that there's somebody within government that is fighting corruption because fighting corruption is fighting their very core.
Okay, here's a quick question. We got 30 seconds to answer this one, right? So I know that the DA has been saying that Whitfield has been asking questions that's made people in government uncomfortable. I hear that, right? On the other hand, I mean, do you concede now with hindsight that he was rather naive to actually go on that trip without the actual permission because he's provided the ammunition for himself to be fired? Yes, no?
We can have that debate. Surely the different sides of the debate that he could have not gone. The bottom line is the sin does not meet the punishment, and you and I can both agree. Mapisa Ngakula and the previous administration flew a whole government airplane with ANC loyalists in it.
Okay, listen to the full conversation, by the way, because she also touched on Herman Mashaba, who said lots of things, and she called him a flip-flopper. He was accusing the DA of turning a blind eye to corruption within the city of Joburg when he was the mayor, when he fired 3 DA Mako members and said they turned the blind eye, and he tweeted about it as well. Anyway, okay, let's get back then to Prof. Maseru Mule. What have we learned about the ANC and the DA in the last, let's say, 48 hours, 5 days?
Thanks, Ashraf. I think South Africa is caught up
at a particular unfortunate moment, largely because of these two major political parties. But also, I think the issue goes back to the very nature and character of the government of national unity. I get a sense that the DA really wanted a grand coalition arrangement rather than the government of national unity, and I think it actually understands itself as such. Yet it is in the government of national unity. But what I think is critically important, which I think the sooner parties that are in the government of national unity get it, the better. This tit for tat politics are very confusing because South Africans are actually waiting for the type of united leadership that can actually take us out of this challenging situation that as a country we find ourselves in. South Africans are not really interested in this tit for tat politics because ultimately what will happen ultimately is that most South Africans will start to really lose whatever semblance of hope that they had in the government of national unity. And they would not really lose hope on a particular political party, but they are going to lose hope in the entire political arrangement called the government of national unity. They are going to lose hope in the entire political system. An indication of that, in any case, has already shown, because if you look at the number of people that's qualified to vote, but they did not actually go out and vote, you could begin to say that as a country, we are beginning to have a situation wherein now people are beginning to lose a sense of hope, a sense of trust in a political system as a way of governing society. And this is the reality that I think it is emerging, and unfortunately our political parties in the government of national unity do not really appear to manage that very well, and we are in this unfortunate situation.
Let's then go to, let's get to a position where, with the end in mind, right? Are we in a situation now that the DA and the ANC may well drift apart, leaving the GNU fractured to the point where it could actually collapse? Or are we in a situation like two boxers who may be fighting and arguing with each other in the media conference, but the reality is they know they need each other to pull off a fight, and they need to be there for each other, and they therefore cannot get away from each other now. Not now, not till the next election.
I think what should actually shape the approach, Ashraf, is what is that which is in the best interest of the country. Because if we do, if political parties make certain arrangements on the basis of whether they need each other, or they don't need each other, there is an element of selfishness there, because those political parties are supposed to work together for what is actually in the interest of the country. If for whatever reason it becomes very clear that perhaps if they move away from each other, it is in the interest of South Africa. Perhaps so be it. But all what I'm trying to say is that the decision should not be based on what worked for DA or what worked for the ANC or for any other political party.
But you see,
a decision ought to be based on what worked for South Africa.
Okay, but now you see, you're sounding like me now, all starry-eyed, and we think the world is just perfect, and that's not going to happen. And you and I, you know that, and I know that, and it's not been happening for a few years to come anyway, right? So here's the question then, right? They're not going to do that, and they've never done that. What then? But assuming that you're right, that they do need to act and make decisions in terms of what is in the best interest of the country, and they've been empowered to do that. At this point in time, I'm talking of today, the halfway through the year of 2026 or 2025, I'm jumping ahead of myself here, what do you think then is in the best interest of the country?
What is actually in the best interest of the country is for the political parties that are part of the government of national unity to start to fully appreciate the fact that being in the government of national unity means that we have to forego some of our ideological biases in terms of trying to make sure that they reach out to each other. The basis of their cooperation should be nothing but what is that can actually take the country forward? What is that we can actually work on it together without any, ideological, nostalgia or oppositional nostalgia? Because in some instances, I get a sense that some political parties, as much as they are in the government of national unity, they are still caught up also between an opposition party and also being in the government of national unity.
Now, some may say what, and this is different perspectives. Some even within the ANC may say what is in the best interest of the country is for the ANC to cut its relationship with the DA and effectively become chommies with the EFF and the MK party. That's one school of thought. And then the other extreme, of course, on the DA side, which is this, that yes, we are dealing with a party allegedly corrupt and we can't deal with them any longer. So what's in the interest of the country is really to push for that motion of no confidence in the president and recall him. And if that means we become an opposition party once again, so be it. I mean, that's the scenario. Is there another one?
I had a hope that the national dialogue will proceed as planned so that the national dialogue should, in no uncertain terms, define what is in the interest of the country. If a political party, Ashraf, come to you and say, this is what is in the interest of the country, you must take that with a pinch of salt because he that person he is obviously saying that this is what I want as a political party, but they will use the unfortunate phrase of being in the interest of the country as that what exactly is, So that is why I had hoped that the question of what is actually at this particular juncture in the country, what is that which is in the interest of the country? I had hoped that message will actually come out very clear from the much talked about national dialogue. But from the political parties, I will not really believe what they are saying when they come to me and say, this is what is in your interest. It is in their own political interest.
Okay, so quick yes-no answer because we don't have enough time here. On this one here, would you agree that when we look at those two parties in particular, it's a case of they both will say they're going to huff and they're going to puff, but in no way are they going to blow the house down? Yes, no, just simple yes, no.
I don't really think that they will actually blow the house down. There is so much at stake.
Well, exactly.
They will just have to find each other.
Okay.
Otherwise, they will all be terribly judged by history.
Well, there we are. Let's appreciate your conversation with me, Prof. Mashupie Maseru Mule, the political commentator from the Tshwane University of Technology. Your comment next.
This week on BBC Primetime, watching TV could make you a winner. It's the BBC Primetime Watch and Win competition. Just tune into your BBC Primetime shows, answer a few simple questions on S3's TikTok account, and you could walk away with awesome prizes. From thrilling dramas to jaw-dropping reality shows, the more you watch, the more chances you have to win. Watch, answer, win. Only on BBC Primetime. Airs weeknights 9 to 11 p.m. on S3. Your couch just became the best seat in the game.
Kathy Motlatlana on SAFM.
Mr. Vavi, earlier Omar was touching on the significance of trade unions. Trade unions today, unfortunately, have lost much of their voice and have lost much of the muscle.
At that moment, the trade union movement could not be ignored. That if you look at the reaction of the apartheid regime to the 1960 uprisings, the highest moment of trade unions in South Africa was around 2007. 2007, on the eve of the Marikana massacre. 2007, unions were organizing up to 40% of workers in South Africa. Today, unfortunately, they're down to 23-24%.
Trade unionist Zwelinzima Vavi.
If you're ready to talk, I'm here to listen, and nothing is off the agenda.
You're listening to the National Pulse.
All right, so we'll when I said next up, we'll get your calls. We'll get them shortly, right? Probably about 15 minutes on a run as we end the show. Voice notes, comments in terms of live calls, and then tweets. You can just tweet right away now already. Hashtag the National Pulse. You can send out your voice notes now. Please, 30 seconds each, but also text messages, all welcome, right? So here's a story, a court case should get you thinking, right? So last year, Bakwena Ba Mokgopa embarked on a strike action that forced the Glencore to close its mine for 6 weeks, right? So what happened afterwards is that the Glencore took the community to the court, and the Bakwena community lost the case against the mine, well, a few weeks ago, in fact, right? So now they believe that the ruling limits the community's right to protest, which is a violation of their constitutional right. And they are of the view that if this is, well, left unchallenged, it simply means that more rural communities like theirs and others will be unfairly treated or exploited by mining companies across the country. I can think about people listening in who have a big issue in where how mines are run, who have a view on this, right? So let's get the thoughts of the representative from the Community Development Foundation. That's Bakwena Ba Mokgopa, and with me now is Pam Segakweng. Pam, appreciate your time. Thanks for connecting on the National Pulse.
Good afternoon, Ms. Ashraf Garra, and to your listeners, and thank you for having me on your show.
Okay, this seems to be a very, very complex issue, isn't it?
It's pretty much complex, but I think you actually summarized it well. This judgment effectively, we believe, infringes on our right or rights of communities to raise a voice of dissent against the legitimate concerns. Ashraf, me and you know, in South Africa, the right to protest is constitutionally protected under the Section 17 of the Bill of Rights. And that means it guarantees that people have a right to assemble, to demonstrate, to picket, to petition peacefully, and I double underline peacefully, and unarmed. And that's exactly what the community of Bakwena Ba Mokgopa last year did in April and May. And unfortunately, on the fateful day in May, a couple of days before the elections, the state apparatus was unleashed on the youth of Bakwena Ba Mokgopa, and some of them were hurt, and some of them ended up landing incarcerated. And now they, some of them have got a criminal record next to their names, only to peacefully protest and to petition. And unfortunately, we believe, as the NGO that I'm part of, Bakwena Ba Mokgopa Community Development Foundation, if this case is left, this judgment is left unchallenged, it may just be the norm. And there's many mining communities in South Africa, and we're afraid this may be under the radar and it may be widespread. I mean, we've been talking to Macron on the other side about some of these cases, and it does look like this is a problem where it looks like it's a classical case of misuse of a strategic litigation against public participation tactic, where the facts are not necessarily ventilated, the real facts. It's just frivolous issues about who damaged property, who did what, and there was never damage to property. People protested for a couple of weeks, 4 to 5 weeks, until the 6th week, just before the elections, that there was a crackdown on the youth. And may I just say, Mr. Garda, unfortunately, all the areas, all the tactics of trying to get Glencore to speak to Bakwena Ba Mokgopa failed. Many letters were written to Glencore to say, look, we've got 6 grievances, and if you allow me, I'll go through the grievances. Can we sit around the table and talk?
Quickly, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the 6 grievances are simply the lack of employment, youth unemployment, which is rampant in the rural community, and therefore poverty by extension, and lack of representation, especially in the board level. I mean, Bakwena Ba Mokgopa owns 26% of the Glencore Roven operations, and then the lack of effective opportunities for SMMEs within the community, which is meaningful participation infrastructural development. I mean, obviously the roads are really bad, and the trust, currently the trust is under litigation as well. Everybody else is fighting to, be the managers of this particular trust. It's now going to Constitutional Court. But in the meantime, the community is left underdeveloped. I mean, for example, as of the MPRDA speaks about two vehicles for development, is the social labor plan and the community trust. The social labor plan that's currently should be implemented is the social labor plan 2023-2027. We are in 2025. To date, it hasn't been implemented. Okay. We don't know between the government and Glencore, when are they coming to the community to explain to the community, these are what you need to be done, because that's how an SLP is done. We're still waiting. Okay, so Pam, that's where the problem is.
I hear you. Just to wrap up then, right? So outside the issue of the legal challenges, is there any conversation taking place right now between the community, between your community as well as Glencore? Is there anything of that sort, number one? And number two, what then is the community's perception of Glencore mine? Because, in all cases, especially mining communities, they're very much an intrinsic part of the community and vice versa, isn't it?
Correct. I mean, I'm not going to take away the fact that Glencore assists a lot in terms of employment, but is it effective in terms of the broader development? The answer is no. And these are the things that we needed to talk to Glencore. There is no doubt that if Glencore wasn't there, people would not have some kind of employment, right? But it's effectively we're saying, can we do better? Can we try and have meaningful participation? Number two, there's no proper communication. I mean, we are in a rural community, so there are no direct or proper communication structures to enable the community to be spoken to. We're just saying you cannot decide for the community without the community. You know what I'm saying? So people need to have an open discussion with Glencore and government. And I do believe that we do feel like as though the government is kind of abandoning us, because we have sent numerous letters to DMRE. We've asked them to intervene, but the intervention is is few and far in between.
Okay, let's leave it at that. Maybe that last line is so telling. You cannot decide on the community without the community. Appreciate your time, and I welcome comments from others who may know more than I do and certainly have maybe first-hand experience of the travails and the troubles in that region. That's Pam Sekgokweng, who's from the Bakwena Ba Mogopa Communities Development Foundation. This is the National Pulse. It's 5:30. Here's the news headlines with Greg.
Quick look at the headlines. The DA says they'll be laying criminal charges against the Minister of Higher Education and Training tomorrow. The bail hearing of a Bloemfontein police officer who's allegedly involved in the kidnapping of a 19-year-old teenager has been postponed to Thursday for judgment. And a street vendor who was shot dead by police during protests in Kenya has been declared brain dead now in hospital after being shot in the head earlier. I'll have a full update at 6 o'clock. For now, that's it.
This is SAFM Sports with Tumi Nkgapele.
Right, Tumi, you've got lots of sport and the predictions and the results of the predictions coming up later on.
Yes, let's start off with cricket on the go. Zimbabwe are currently on 32-1, trailing South Africa by 505 runs. Remember, it's day 3 of their first test between Zimbabwe and South Africa. Then in football, South African Football Association President Danny Jordaan has continued to claim that he is a victim of a sustained media campaign. Jordaan says that all the national teams continue to achieve great things and pointed out to the success of Bafana Bafana under their longest-serving coach, Hugo Bruce. He says that despite all these impressive results, they're still receiving negative coverage.
Our under-15 boys and girls are now preparing for further engagement at the international level. Our under-17, our under-20. Bafana has gone 22 matches with no defeat. Hugo Bruce is the longest-serving national team coach in the history of South African football. There is no coach who had a longer spell as a coach than Hugo Bruce. The generation of new players into Bafana is also unprecedented. Some of you, when the under-20 came with a trophy from AFCON, you ignored it. You didn't write a single word that these young boys have impressed with the world of football and has come with a trophy. And we must just ask why. Why can you not write about the achievement of these young players. So I don't know. I hope you are focused on what is real and what is the issues of football, and let us deal with the issues of football.
So there you have it. Mr. Jordaan says he's a victim of the media and basically everyone against him.
Well, before you comment, there's a voice note from a caller.
Yeah.
Let's play that because he talks about Danny Jordaan.
Oh, okay.
Can we do that? Yeah. All right.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Ashraf is Lennon Khwedi here. Ashraf, it's so funny that Danny Jordaan doesn't know why they're bringing a motion of no confidence against him. Actually, Danny Jordaan, Ivan Khoza, Kezam Taung, all these old crocs, they must leave the office and give new ideas a chance to can come and lead the SAFA, man. Can't they get enough of this money? They've siphoned and enriched themselves. It's now a time that they should give others chance, man. Lennon.
I fully agree. And I think someone was saying that what if everything was doing well and he didn't have corruption? Even if there was no corruption around Dr. Jordaan, I feel like 2 terms is more than enough. 2 terms is more than enough. Give other people a chance. New ideas.
Oh, goodness. I must tell you, I bumped into a person on Saturday and we chatted. It's like Aaron McQuena, of course. Right?
Yeah.
It's part of SAFA's structures, but I mean, I think he's still the most capped Bafana player of all time and the youngest and captain us during the World Cup and all that. But, I mean, a lot of things we spoke about I can't say now because I don't have the authority to say so.
Yeah.
But you have to ask yourself the question, like, he's there and others like him are there, but are they at the center of power? And if they're not, why not? Yeah. I mean, I can throw in Lucas Radebe and Neil Toby, and I mean, there's so many others. Are they at the center of football decision-making or not?
Let's still stay with football. AmaZulu have confirmed that Simo Dlala as an assistant coach to head coach Arthur Zwane. This is following his departure from newly promoted Durban City. He joins AmaZulu barely a week after his departure from Durban City, whom he helped regain promotion to the top flight. The two parties, which is Durban City and Dlala, could not agree terms on a new deal, and they both decided to go their separate ways. Meanwhile, in athletics, SASCOC President Barry Hendricks says that while Athletics South Africa is accountable to World Athletics, it's still required to adhere to SASCOC's governance structures and regulations. An independent auditing firm has been appointed to investigate allegations of irregular credit card spending by Athletics South Africa President James Moloi, and he says that Moloi will not step aside, arguing that there are no such provisions in sports regulations and emphasizing that Moloi remains innocent until proven guilty.
There's no such thing, even in business or in politics. There's no such thing. It's and the courts in particular is innocent until proven guilty. It's drawing conclusions without looking at the real facts, and that's what the preliminary investigation is. I've been through the portfolio committee. We were informed that. The president of ASA handed his card in April already, so that they're following new policies and procedures with regards to that. We'd like to look into it. We'd like to look into how much was actually used in the credit card and whether the policies allow that to take place. If the policies allow it, you must remember it's not the president who determines policies, it's the members. And if the members are comfortable, even with the SAFA issue, if the members are happy, that is the mandate of the National Federation.
Meanwhile, in rugby, Jean Kleyn has been ruled out of South Africa's 3 tests in July. This is after picking up an injury during the weekend over the Barbarians. The injury is unspecified, and SA Rugby says that Kleyn will return to his Irish club Munster to undergo the necessary rehabilitation. The Springboks face Italy in Pretoria, then in Gqeberha, then a week later. Then they take on Georgia in Nelspruit on the 19th of July before heading into the Rugby Championship in August. In tennis, Benjamin Bonzi upset two-time Wimbledon semi-finalist Daniil Medvedev 7-6, 3-6, 7-6 and 6-2 to claim the biggest win of his career. To advance into the second round of Wimbledon, Stefanos Tsitsipas, meanwhile, retired from his first round match against Valentin Roya 6-3, 6-2, dealing with a back injury, and top seed Aryna Sabalenka registered her 43rd win of the year after beating Carson Branston 6-1, 7-5 in round 1. Finally, just going back to my weekend predictions, Ashraf, I was right about the Springboks. They thrashed the Barbarians.
Did you say they thrashed them or they're going to beat them?
They thrashed them.
Okay.
Thrashed.
In fact,
not
the word
beat them.
could have two meanings in this case. They actually beat them.
They thrashed them. And the Proteas, in all honesty, I feel like I'm going to be right because, I mean, Zimbabwe is trailing by how many runs? What? 500 and something. I was wrong with the F1. I said Oscar Piastri was going to win, but Lando Norris won and Piastri was second. And another thrashing. Inter Miami, my club. I was crying, losing to PSG 4-0.
Did you say they were going to win?
No, I said...
You said you like PSG.
I said I love Inter Miami, but PSG is going to thrash them. Or actually, I said they're going to beat them, but they were thrashed 4-0.
And the gulf in standards clear for all to see.
Yeah. Well, I'll be back again on Top Sport between 7 and 8, and we're looking back at what happened during the week, also zooming in on that SAFA Congress meeting.
Can I have a question for your Top Sport?
Yeah.
Without getting to the politics of the day, at some stage, Danny Jozan will not be at the helm of SAFA. That's a fact. I mean, it has to be. And at some stage, Erwin Khoza will not be at the helm of the PSL any longer.
Yeah.
So when that happens, right, who should lead SAFA? Not today, when that happens, and who should lead the PSL when that happens? That's all for your show.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Okay, let's get into other issues now. I suppose it's all about the money ultimately, isn't it? In terms of who runs what and who does what. So Jimmy Moyar hosts the SAFM Market Update, as you know, every single weekday, Monday to Thursday. Jimmy, good to connect with you as always on the Monday. As you said, halfway through the year, what's moving the markets today? We've got a big issue about fair pay bill.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Good afternoon to the listeners. Yes, the Fair Pay Bill is something that is being introduced in Parliament. In fact, being introduced by the leader of Build One South Africa, who also happens to chair the Appropriations or the Remuneration Committee, rather, I think, in a Parliament that is Musi Maimane. The Fair Pay Bill aims to provide more transparency and clarity on certain things related to employment arrangements and the like. For example, if this bill goes through, we could be talking about the end of employers potentially requesting pay slips before they make you an employment offer, and it could be the start of allowing people to discuss their salaries with their fellow colleagues to ensure that people are paid fairly and equitably. All in the aim of transparency. Obviously, we know that for the longest time, these conversations have been almost taboo to be had in the workplace around fairness, openness, and transparency. So we'll look to see how that is going to shape up from a bill perspective. It is, of course, going to sit before Parliament. But while it does that, we're going to take a look at it from a legal standpoint with employment law experts at Cliff Decker Hofmeyer, just to get a sense of what the implications could be should a bill like this go through. Then we've also got a conversation with the team at Standard Bank around the municipal price hikes that are set to take effect tomorrow. Municipalities, more than 130 municipalities and regions have gotten approval for price hikes to tariff increases from an electricity point of view, and we're going to take a look at the implications of that on consumers and on consumers' pockets. Then we've got a conversation on the crypto side of things, taking a look at the state of altcoins and Bitcoin mining. Now, Bitcoin mining is particularly interesting at this point in time because the team at Eskom, in particular the CEO at Eskom, has said that they could potentially be looking to support Bitcoin mining initiatives in the country as an alternative to see if that could increase some of the demand they've been losing out from the consumer side of it. So that's going to be an interesting conversation to look at from a crypto perspective. And then we've also got a conversation around the results from Invicta Holdings. We're going to take a look at that with the Invicta CEO, and then we're going to wrap up the show with a digital drive feature. We're going to be taking a digital well-being. There was a digital well-being summit held last week in Johannesburg, by one of the big digital platforms or one of the big social media platforms. And it's interesting that they are prioritizing things around mental health where it relates to your interaction with digital technologies and with digital platforms. So everything from screen downtime to meditation within apps and all those other things aimed at encouraging a better engagement with digital technology. I think that's going to be an interesting conversation to wrap up the show with there as well. Before we get to those conversations, let's get a sense of the markets. It's been quite an interesting day from an equities point of view, with equity markets, especially resource markets, rallying despite softer pricing. If we look at resource pricing, let's start there perhaps. The Brent crude price, $67.50 a barrel, still below $70 there. It seems the calmer tensions in the Middle East have kept that oil price below $70 a barrel. Platinum pricing $1,347, palladium $1,112, and gold $3,287. All of these markets in the red compared to where we left them on Friday. But despite that, resource stocks on the local front having a green day, up 1.8%. Financial stocks up 0.5%. Industrials up 5 basis points, basically flat. But the all share up 0.2%, and the top 40 up 0.2%. Those resource counters coming in quite handy to start off the week and potentially close off the month, because today is, of course, the last trading day of the month of June. Speaking of trading, the currency side of things, the rand 17.74 against the US dollar, 1 British pound 24.31, 1 euro 20.84, 1 Australian dollar around 11.64 cents, 1 Bitcoin still $107,000 a coin, or around 1.9 million rand, pretty much exactly where we left it when we caught up on Friday looking at that price. If we look at international markets before we go, the US markets are in the green at the moment, marginally so, about 0.1% up in each case. European markets all finished in the red, the biggest loser there being the Germany DAX, down 0.3%, and Asian markets were a bit of a mixed bag. The Hang Seng was the only loser there, but the Nikkei in Tokyo was up, the Shanghai main composite was up 0.2%, and the ASX in Sydney was up 0.3%. So we're going to look at these market matters, or market movements rather, a little later on when we come back just after the 6 p.m. news. For now, Ashraf, back to you.
All right, perfect. You enjoy your show 6 to 7, and then Tumi comes in 7 to 8 with Top Sport, and maybe she'll just ask that question about the future of SAFA and the future of the PSL. Not today, sometime down the line, without Danny Jordan, without Irvin Khoza. What would happen then? What's important is I talk to you, so you're on the pulse. Let's hear you after this.
EFC is live this Thursday, after months of talk.
And you got nothing, bro. Beat someone relevant, then come show me what you got.
The middleweight division's biggest rivalry comes to a dramatic conclusion.
Massive drama here at the main event of EFC. Never seen anything like it. This crowd.
It's Luke Michael versus Shadrach Nsua for the middleweight title, EFC 125. Live from the World Sports Betting Arena, this Thursday, July 3rd. Watch it on SABC Sport Channel, on DTT Channel 4 from 7 p.m. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
The Morning Brief.
Do you know why you were fired?
Well, I can only speculate. I received a letter on Wednesday, and that letter didn't provide any explanation, but thanked me for my service and reiterated the president's legal prerogative to appoint and obviously disappoint in this case. But, you know, one of the reasons may very well be that I traveled to the United States earlier this year. I did request permission from the president. After 10 days, I had not received a response, and I undertook to go obviously at risk.
Andrew Whitfield, DA Member of Parliament and also former Deputy Minister of Trade and Industry.
Thulasizwe Simelane on The Morning Brief. Find the podcast at safm.co.za. Call us on 086 000 2032.
Well, I'll get to David in a moment. Here's a comment saying, Ashraf, as you are in the GNU discussion, I recall Fikile Mbulula saying, and I quote, the DA can pack their things and leave, but on their way out, they will meet others coming in. Even if the DA walks away, the GNU will not collapse. Other parties are already knocking at the door, end quote, right? So then the comment is from King Blas, right? Seems to me the DA is the only powerful party in the GNU, and it seems their plan is not to help the formation function properly. What have we as citizens benefited so far since the formation of the GNU? Right? Somebody say, what have we benefited? Somebody also asked the question, What if we benefit from the leadership of the ANC, let's say in the last 10 years? Think about that too, right? Okay, David in Uppington, go for it. You're live on the National Pulse.
Ashraf, how are you?
Yeah, good talking to you, David. What's your point?
I'm good, Bruce. Look, man, Ashraf, two things. Firstly, I'm very much disappointed in SAFM in terms of the minutes that you guys allocate to the professor. Because I'm of the view that SAFM is there for the general public and the ordinary person. But let me just jump.
Sorry,
on
which
that
professor,
point.
so I understand you, which professor are you referring to?
No, you had Duvenhagen and the professor now on your show.
Yeah.
And they, for me, they represent a liberal view.
Right.
A liberal view that is not actually affecting what people on the ground. Ashraf, what I'm trying to say to you is that, for me, again, some people are emphasizing the white supremacy, because what the DA is actually doing currently with the GNU, it's like gunpointing the leading party. You remember that the DA also does not have a majority, and the DA needs to not be equal.
All right, let me say this much because of time. Let me say this because of time. In fact, yes, we've had Duvenhagen the other day, and we've had the Prof today, and I hear what you're saying about their views. We effectively, not on a day-to-day basis, but on a week basis, we tend to reflect as many different views as possible, right? But today, not only that, we also had the DA spokesperson. So let me tell you why we didn't have the ANC spokesperson, because they didn't want to come on air. So we do approach them, we invite them often enough, and if they don't want to pick up the cudgels and come on, we can't talk to them.
But can I suggest, Ashraf, that one day you dedicate your show to the ordinary South Africans that actually express their views without limiting them to 1 minute or 2 minutes?
Yeah, but I mean, I hear you, but in fact, we're doing it right now. We're talking to you when you represent the ordinary South Africans. But you must remember...
I love the topics on SAFM, but the problem that I'm having is that sometimes when we raise issues that are anti the sentiment, it becomes like you are cut off because your time is off.
No, I can tell you this now. I can only speak on this show, right? We never cut off people because we don't agree with them. In fact, we never cut off people. What we do is we do stop talking because of time constraints. And I must tell you, David, hear me out, because of time constraints. And I must tell you this. Every show has its own format. So, for example, Bridget's show sounds different to this show, and this show sounds different to Lasizwe's show, and Kathy's show sounds different. That's the nature of the shows. Now, this show... Listen. But David, you have to hear me out. This show is a drive time show from 3 to 6. It is a fast-paced show that requires lots of interviews and short, sharp comments from the audience. Kathy's show, for example, has a longer audience communication chat because that's the nature of that show. So each show does have its own format, and we play to that format.
My brother,
yeah.
But also, I think we need to move away from this Western way of thinking, of actually censoring certain shows. Because for me, there's a guy from Western Cape that actually sort of perpetuates a narrative that is actually anti-African.
All right, I hear you, but now, okay, David, we have to move on. I'm not cutting you.
That's fine,
I'm simply saying...
I'll talk to you again, Ashraf. I'm not going to be I'm not going to hibernate from these things.
But don't hibernate. I mean, I think your views are very important. They really are.
Thank you for that.
But this point that I must emphasize for all of you, we never cut off callers because we don't agree with them, no matter who they are. We try and get a reflection of... Thank you, David. We try and get a reflection of different people talking at the same time. I'm talking of guests, right? But we can't sort of dedicate a complete hour to callers only because it's just not the nature of this show. There are different shows that do that. This one is drive time, fast pace, things change by the minute, and that's what we need to be reflecting. But David, having said that, I'm going to think about what you said when I get home because it's important that we do hear what you have to say. Right, let's get to another caller from Cape Town. Shata, you also want to comment about the DA. Go for it. Hello, Shata.
Evening, how are you, Ashraf?
I'm good indeed, right? What's your point?
DA will never leave the GNU. They made it very clear when they were in the States. When Steve was in the United States, he said they are only in the what is deemed to be black parties that are fighting for Africanism to be in the government. They will never leave the GNU. They will never leave the GNU because they think they are there to protect the white interest. So if they go out of the GNU, they are of the thought that they will be giving black people power. They will never go out of the GNU.
Okay, I hear you. I'm not too sure whether it's about keeping black people out of power because, the ANC itself is exactly that. It's a party it's always been a black majority party since day one. But the interesting part, and I agree with you, he said it at the White House. We are there to keep out, and he specifically spoke about the MK party as well as the EFF. And for that reason, I agree with you. They're not going to open the door. They're not going to open the door for them to come in. Not now. No matter what the arguments are, it'll take something really dramatic. In fact, Helen Zille said something like, you're going to have to fire us. We're not going to make it easy for you if you don't want us. Talking to the ANC. It's all drama, isn't it? Shata, thanks for that one. Let's get to Romeo. I spoke about drama. I mean, I'm thinking about Shakespeare's Romeo. Romeo, hi.
Hey, Ashraf, how are you?
Good, how's it, man? Go for it.
Okay, then. Okay, firstly, Ashraf, David must just relax.
Yeah.
This is one of the stations, this is one of the radio stations where we get the chance to say whatever we want to say, and you cannot give an hour to one person, and you are not biased. We respect the show. But anyway, coming to the Democratic Alliance, this guy must just, note that this is not an apartheid era, where white people must now start to dominate and we say bus. This is not just a matter of labor court or whatever. It's a matter of national importance, and the president must act in a way that protects 60 million people of this country.
Well,
Thank you very much,
yeah,
Ashraf.
much appreciated. And thanks for the compliments, Romeo. It's never easy managing it. That's why we've got a team. It's myself, Keys, Temba, Vusani, all of us make this team of what we call the National Pulse. And we try and win every single day, okay? Much appreciate that. Let's get further comments from you. There is a comment about David. Okay, David's in the news now.
No, David, you're out of order. No, you're being unfair. No, you're out of order. Radio, man, it's not like, newspapers or something. There's time involved there. Straight to the point. Philip Mashu.
Thanks for that, Philip. And you were straight to the point. 18 seconds. I really appreciate it. Well, that's exactly the point. We are governed by time. Like it or not, we governed by time. Like a 90-minute football game or a 80-minute rugby game or a 20-over test one-day cricket game, we governed by time.
I'm listening to the interview on Glencore. One of the core problems is that politicians want to live and in their capacities practice a new liberal capital lifestyle, including wanting the benefits of private health care. And then for the public, or the rhetoric is about a socialist economic model. For the masses, but not in their own personal practices. And therefore you have wanting NHI, but ask any of the politicians and ministers, especially Department of Health, to start by going to government hospitals for treatment for them, their families, their children, as an example, and you won't have it. Ask them to cancel parliamentary medical aid and use government facilities, you won't have it. And similarly with the mining problem.
Well, there we are. I think, it's not like we haven't heard this before, but it's true. It is a question to ask which one, and I think there are a few exceptions, which one of the various government ministers over the years have committed to sending their children to public schools, or children, grandchildren, and then to use public health care as opposed to private health care. That means which one has showed the confidence over the years. I don't have all the answers. I would love to know. Here's one.
Good evening, Ashraf. It's DTN here in Bethel. People were just mobilizing each other to vote the ANC out. This is what they were looking for. Now we have to understand and we have to know that we are going to live on that one for a long time. They will scratch each other until up to the end. Next year is the elections for the local government. What is going to happen? People will learn from there.
I think that local government election is going to be so significant because, there are lots of perceptions that emanated from the GNU, and how those perceptions play out is going to impact on how people vote, don't you think?
Hi, Ashraf. Once again, I want to thank you for your objectivity in all the matters that trigger our pulses. About the DA and ANC, just two things. Is it possible for you to get hold of this agreement that was signed during the formation of the GNU? Second thing is it true that this dialogue thing will cost the country in excess of 700 million rand? Just a question. It's Jambas, eh? Thank you.
Okay, Jambas, thanks for that. Thanks for the compliment. Much appreciated. Listen, we try as best as we can. We all have our own opinions, but we ask questions. I do on behalf of the audience, and if I don't, then my producers keep me in check. That's really how we work as a team, right? The 700 million is not official, but that's been spoken about, but it was not confirmed that it will cost that much. It may cost much less now with the DA, just by the way. And yeah, I hear you about that agreement. It's been public knowledge. Maybe we need to dig it up again, right? George in East London, go for it. Hi.
Sir, how are you?
Yeah, good indeed. What's your point?
My point, George, is that, the GNU, when it was formed, it was like a quick thing, without thoroughly looking into things. So I think they must have ongoing meetings, or there must be a neutral body to oversee the GNU so that they can fine-tune each other, and they can, because the purpose must be for the interest of the people, not for us to be entertaining their in-house fighting. And doesn't bring any results for us.
Well, I agree with you about that, George. Thank you for that, Mark. Yeah, listen, I don't know. I mean, I don't know where they're going to go with this, right? I think the measurement of the overall impact of the GNU is something that probably will be a case study for years to come. It all started when people felt they can't give the ANC a 50+1. That really is what started it all rolling.
Ashraf, it's DK here. Well, unfortunately, DA, they knew that ANC was corrupt, and yet they decided to get into the relationship, with them, knowing very well that the relationship might be toxic. So I guess they are now caught in a situation whereby they are forced to stay in a relationship just for convenience sake. So there's nothing that they can do. They've got more to offer, to lose than the ANC. So DA is stuck. Thank you.
Well, there we are. Let's wrap that up with that point. First, there's a thank you from one of the audience as well. Much appreciate your comments too. But here it is. They got into the GNU, the DA, because it gives them a sense of power, because it does, and they are power sharing now, and it gives them a shop window to prove how well they can govern, which they are trying to do. And at the same time, and I'm quoting from them, they also got in as a way to keep out two significant parties, the MK party and the EFF. It was their way of keeping them out. At this point in time, it's worked. They've kept them out. That's why they won't get out. That's my point too, isn't it? Right, that's the show. Wonderful to connect with you all throughout the last 3 hours. Hey, you know what? We're going to do it all again tomorrow, because I'll see you tomorrow. You better be around. But you can, throughout the night as well, tweet the hashtag The National Pulse. If you have an opinion that you want to share, I certainly will pick it up. Here's Greg Host with the news at 6.